But they got to get through a full best-of-3 series tonight. TBR has a lot of work to do. BP have proved unbeatable so far this season, as has BPC, but BP walking in with their star mid laner Death Star, who's really changed things up for this team. And so TBR are going to have their work cut out for them as we're getting into the first round of bans, as Rengar and Shen automatically being taken off the board. And again, so lovely to have you guys with us tonight. Very, very excited for this series. I think a lot of people have been excited for this series, given the potential ramifications for what can happen tonight, and the possibility of having a three-way tie is obviously very, very exciting. And so, and I think a lot that we can expect from both these teams too. I think this is going to be a very competitive series. I do expect a full best-of-3. We're going to get the predictions going in the chat. So you guys go ahead and get on in there. It is time to gamble those channel points. So have some fun. Get ready to get on in there and predict which of these teams is going to win. As it last a couple of bans through the first round coming through, Lulu being taken away from TBR. BP want nothing to do with that champion to the bot side, stopping all of their playmaking. And then Sion also going to be taken away from the side of TBR. So pinching that top pool a little bit. And Yasuo being taken off as well, so they want to deny that away from Death Star, make sure that he doesn't have any of that playmaking capability. And BP will immediately respond by locking themselves into Wukong, making sure that they have quite a bit of team fighting. Also giving themselves some innate backline access. I love Wukong as a blind pick. He's really strong. Doesn't have a lot of counters. You know, and the ones he does, I think they're not so bad. It's, I think, just a very safe jungle pick. So it definitely makes a lot of sense that BP want to lock that in as well. And then it's also something that they don't have to worry about later on the series if they want to play something that's a little bit more front to line dependent, or front to back dependent. And they don't have to worry about that Wukong potentially getting backline access on their own team. These TBR want to lock themselves in a little bit of a late game scaling, so they grab themselves up a Jinx. And then insta-lock an Ornn on that top side just to make sure that they have a little bit more playmaking in the top side, so that way that top lane pool doesn't get pinched anymore. This also signals to me that TBR want to save that counter pick for the mid lane, which I think makes a lot of sense. You want to try and get the best possible matchup against Death Star, who has proven an incredibly difficult challenge for just about everybody in the league so far. Has mostly been without equal. And speaking of being without equal, I have a color caster without equal in Blackmage, who's joining me on this cast. As again, Blackmage's a brand new father, so give a round of applause to the man who joined us on the last broadcast. Blackmage, how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Yeah, apologies for being a little late.
No worries.
Had some things to deal with, but I'm glad to be here. Super stoked to see this set. You know, I've been absent for a while, so it's going to be good to get back into the swing of things. Not as much as before, but hopefully we get to ramp that up over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, glad to have you with us, and we are just getting through the first round of picks and bans, getting ready to the second ban list. Zambessa was picked up there for TBR, and I think going to be a decent answer combined with Ornn into that Cassante. I think BP just trying to draft a bunch of safety. It's very clear that they want to play kind of through their mid to bot lane. Curious about your thoughts of the draft so far.
Yeah, I mean, TBR obviously drafting that very standard, you know, front to back team fighting, protect the Jinx play style. Basically, Ornn plenty good at offering a lot of protection and zone control for the Jinx. On the side of BP, you know, kind of the same thing. They really want to play the same style of protect the center, right? Wukong's going to be the major engager. They've got Cassante to be split pushing side lanes, which I feel like might get the best of Mbesa later in the game. We'll have to wait and see how the item comparisons match up, but so far looks like pretty good for both sides, actually.
Yeah, I would say, like, to continue that point, I think one of the things I am concerned about a little bit is just TBR's ability to make this Mbesa work in the jungle role. In my opinion, she's been so heavily nerfed in that role that it kind of only is worth it to play her top lane, and especially because public execution is such a key ability when you're looking at engaging from the side of TBR. I will say, though, it does get a lot easier if you can start things with the Ornn Horn, you know, just slow people down, get them knocked up. And then also, like, vice versa, too. If you land a public execution, then Call of the Forge God is super, super easy to land on multiple people. And I think especially for Mbesa, too, wanting to lock down that Senna becomes a lot easier, especially when compared with this Orianna, as TBR locked that in. Let's see what Death Star wants to pick. I was expecting TBR to hold on to the mid lane pick until the very last last moment. So I'm kind of surprised that TBR is picking this, given that Death Star has been a standout player for BP.
Yeah, but also something to note is that the Orianna and Besa combo, I'm not too sure if it works the same way that it used to. I'm not sure if they hotfixed it or if it still is, works this way by design. But Besa can essentially ult onto the first person she sees, and the Orianna ball will just follow her. And it gets to be really messy in these late game team fights where that ball delivery system is just almost instantaneous, and there's not much counterplay that BP can really do against it.
Yeah. I will say BP are going to give themselves a little bit of an easier time with the Aurora, so I do like that, making it difficult for TBR to kind of lock down any one player. And then also Aurora, I think, is one of the very few champions that is able to get threat onto Orianna in the lane. Because I think we both agree, like, Orianna has been such an impressive lane pick for so long, especially throughout the entirety of the season within the TLS, that, I feel like we've seen a lot of teams struggle to kind of win in that lane. And then, especially if you have a great delivery systems like you do already with Mbessa and whatever this support pick will be for TBR, I think it makes it a lot easier. But if any player is going to be able to do that, I think Death Star is probably the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think Death Star is going to be, the one that they're going to be reliant on to be winning that lane phase and just making the game a hell of a lot easier going into that mid and late game. But the Rel could be picked for the side of TBR, so some pretty straightforward lanes here. Koreus is able to pilot this champion and actually take advantage of those small moments that present themselves.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a little bit since we've had you on the Color Caster desk. Obviously, we had you for the the whole thing from last weekend with the daddy off thing. So, how does it feel being an actual daddy now? Tell us what it's like having having your kiddo now.
It actually saves you from the degeneracy of playing League of Legends so much. Your brain cells start to grow back. Your back starts to stop hurting. It's a different kind of grind, but more wholesome than the League of Legends grind. So
you gonna teach your kids to play League of Legends, or are you gonna try and steer them away from it?
I'm gonna let them make that decision. If they see dad raging and they still want to play the game, I can't really stop them.
Well, hopefully we get a baby Blackmage being able to one day, cast a game of League of Legends or even play it. That would be exciting. But speaking of exciting, the matchup I'm most excited about in this game right now is this mid lane matchup between Death Star and Philomena. I feel like a lot on this game kind of rides on this matchup, to be honest with you. Death Star has just been, I think, an outstanding player for BP. Obviously has a tremendous amount of individual talent, but then also works really, really well within the system that BP have set up. And they've played a lot around their mid laner, which I think has been great. But I think also some of those things that he's invited that capability for BP to want to play around him just by sheer dint of winning almost the majority of his lanes. He's an incredibly aggressive player, and I think as a jungler and even as a support that roams up there from time to time, it's incredibly encouraging knowing that you have a mid laner that gets that kind of lead and it makes it easy to enable him. But I'm also curious, like TBR, Philomena hasn't been like their player to play around, and I'm curious if they're going to change that a little bit to try and limit Death Star at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that thought process that goes through every coach's head, every player's head. It's like, okay, you know who the star player is, but do you really want to waste all of your resources trying to gun them down, trying to make them have a tough lane, when they are so skilled that they kind of know how to respond to that? And I might be getting ahead of myself, as it might be pushing the top set. Okay, they're going to back off. Yeah, do you want to use all your resources to take down the star player and to prevent them from getting ahead as they naturally do in every game? Or do you want to use your strengths in other lanes to actually push ahead and get an advantage somewhere else? And that's, that's a question for the coaches. It's a question for the teams. There's no real right answer there. And, it just depends on how you execute on the day.
Yeah. I think with this particular instance, too, I think with Philomena, it's one of those things where, like, if the Ori does want to play aggressive, as we normally expect Orianna players to do, then, there's advantage to be gained there. But then also, Ori's just fine, I think, to just sit back and farm a little bit. It's not necessarily in a rush to try and get control of the game. There's going to be opportunities later on for team fighting and, the ability to make the most of that shockwave, especially in big moments. And so I think for TBR, the name of the game here is to be patient, especially when we're when we're thinking about the wider implications of what happens if they win this game, because if they do manage to give a loss to BP, that makes the next game, this next matchup tomorrow between BP and BBC even more exciting, because if BBC gets a loss, now we're suddenly locked in a three-way tie for first place. And then, you start to go through some implications, and Friday would take on way more importance. Baby Josh is going to prevent Peppermint from getting too much more of an engage here. It's a little bit of counterplay between both of those. As Philomena, somewhere where the camera wasn't watching, managed to get quite a chunk of damage on a Death Star and is now forcing the Aurora underneath the turret.
Yeah, that's something that has developed since I took my hiatus, is TBR. I think the last time that I was casting, they were 0-1 or 1-1. And so now to see them, you know, all the way up in 4-1 with the big boys, it's good to see. It's good to see other teams leveling up in that way. Some aggression coming out from bot side, but it doesn't look like it's going to amount to too much. But yeah, I love to see it. I love to see that these other teams are leveling up, that there's actually some staunch competition up in the top of the standings. And speaking of which, I think we are going to see some competition in this bot lane.
Yeah, we're getting
a little bit on our way down.
We're getting a little bit of a roam timer. This might be a little bit too much for Jarrell to get away from. As the wraparound is fully completed, forces out the flash. Chono doesn't want to go too much farther. He would be underneath the turret, and that would, I think, not be so much fun. So they will instead call us out, but they'll be happy to get the flash off the Senna, so that enables some more playmaking later. So not the worst investment, just a little bit of time and effort spent there. And also, they're not really losing too much else in any of the other lanes, so not necessarily the worst roam. Although, Hacker is going to be very, very happy to be going and stealing some camps.
Yeah. Something to mention, some build choices for all the lanes. I'm noticing the Dirk for Chono. I'm wondering what that's going to be built into. I see 2 amplifying tomes for Death Star, which is curious. That usually signals that they're not going to go for...
Is that maybe Hextech Protobell by any chance?
Oh, it might be. That's
Hextech,
what I was thinking.
Which would make sense because Death Star wants that mobility. You know, especially getting out on the Orion. If you can burst her really, really heavily, then that's like the one chance you have. So that in that instance, that makes sense. Oh, nice flash forward, Philomena. Oh, gets trapped between worlds. First blood, BP. Oh, we were going to try and set that one up for something a little bit more extravagant when the items got completed, but Death Star, living up to his name, obliterates Philomena in the 1v1 in the mid lane.
Yeah. Showing why he is definitely the best mid laner in the league. Takes advantage of Philomena overstepping there, and you know, just does so much burst damage on this champion. Knows the limits.
Let's get the replay of that.
Yeah.
So this will take a minute because it's a 40-second replay. But yeah, you kind of see nice trading there. Walk us through it.
Yeah, Philomena actually trading very well early on in this matchup. But then Death Star takes full advantage of the fact that his cooldowns are back off. Is able to flash forward, kind of catches Philomena off guard, and is able to execute him fairly quickly.
Now, this may be getting traded back because, unfortunately, Chono might have found himself without a home to go to. As he's getting completely wrapped around, Shockwave will be committed. Philomena will at least be getting some nice kill gold going back over. So a little bit of a response there, but obviously that first blood gold is going to feel pretty good for Death Star. The one thing I wanted to bring up real quick, because we were talking about standings just a minute ago, and I just kind of had this thought is, you know who else is heavily invested in this game? Silvermanes. Silvermanes would very much like to see TBR get a loss here. They recently, at least on win percentage, just because of the games involved, TBR has been able to sort of dethrone Silvermanes just because, you know, they're sitting at 4-1, and Silvermanes is sitting at 4-2, plus there's a couple of game loss there. But Silvermanes would love for TBR to drop this final game of their season.
Yeah. I think Silvermanes is really, hoping that TBR falls and falters to BP, and BP is the team to do it, right? This is the team that we are kind of slating as the winners of the tournament at this point. They definitely are the team to beat, and it's off the back of several good players. Obviously, one that we've already honed on is Death Star, but every player on this team is really showing up week after week, rather. And it extends to their entire team. So hats off to this team for really just showing up every week and showing every other team what they need to do in order to be at the top.
Yeah, I'm a little sad that I'm not going to be here this weekend to cast the finals. It's just one of those things like with scheduling. It's like, man, I already planned to go to Arizona. So it's going to be really exciting to see, this weekend which of these teams actually comes out on top in terms of winning the finals. Because I think either way, we've got 4 potentially really good winners. Like the storylines for all of the teams are really, really good. If you look at from like Silvermanes, very, very scrappy team. Like they were doing well at the beginning of the season. Then they had to, fight hard to win a couple of games. There was a couple of unfortunate losses, but still a great fundamental team, that's able to compete with the best. And then, obviously BBC and BP need no introduction. Top of the standing teams have been there the whole time, undefeated. undefeated. You know, they've got really, really strong players. And then TBR, like you said, is kind of a little bit of the late arrival where they're showing that they have the ability to compete and that it's not just a one or two horse show. And so, you know, I think it'll be exciting no matter what. Whoever wins this weekend, I think it'll be massively deserved.
Yeah, I really do think so as well. The bracket is looking like it's going to really show us the actual best team. That being said, I will be very disappointed if Liquid makes it to finals, and then I'm going to be casting while Liquid's playing. But you know what? It's a trade-off I'm willing to make.
Well, I'll send you pictures. I'll send you pictures from the victory stage when Team Liquid wins everything. I got my TL jersey on right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, speaking of jersey, League of Lehigh, I'd be wishing that he had a jersey that fancy north the same from Silver. Silver with the flash for the Atofo strikes enough to take Lehigh down. Some aggressive training, BP 2-1, and they're feeling pretty good in this early game.
Yeah, and it's really impressive that this is off the back of 2 solo kills. This is really showing the lane dominance that BP has. You know, both of these solo laners that you really hope and you know, depend upon to win their lane states are doing just that. So if you're on BP, you're very stoked at this at how this mid game or early game rather has turned out. Something I did want to mention real quick for Chono's build. I did not know this, but apparently Jungle and Besa, big fan of these strong armor pin items. The Hubris is typically the first item built, followed by the Voltaic Cyclist Sword into Death Stance of all things. And that's pretty much the core 3 items for most and basic junglers. So really be interesting to see if that's the route that Chono goes. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because that provides a lot of survivability. I mean, the death stance alone gives you the ability to fight for a really long time in some of these skirmishes or in the long team fights. And also, it's just one of those things that, like, I think we've all played a game against Ambessa, or like, God, no matter what I do, this Ambessa won't seem to die. Speaking of dying, Chris, trying to survive in that bot side, was brought very, very close to death. They're starting to trade back. Magnet Storm over the top of Baby Josh. Ultimate comes out for Jarrell. Not really doing a whole lot to the Jinx, but it's enough to persuade the bot lane from TBR to back us. So a nice little trade from BP. They commit their ultimates. They don't get any kills, but they do get control of the lane.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I just checked Jarrell's stacks on Senna, and it looks like he only has 28. That seems pretty low for 12 minutes into the game?
It's pretty low. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty low for a Senna, which is a little concerning.
You know, Black Rose has something to to celebrate. They've kept Senna down in stacks. Jinx is ahead in farm, which is good, even though there is nearly an 800 gold lead over the side of Senna on this one.
Yeah. I mean, that basically amounts to like 2 stacks a minute, which I don't think is that great. I'll be honest. I think there should probably be more stacks there, so it's I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like the implications of like the Senna taking a really, really long time to come online, because it's not enough to like just get kills or pressure. Like you do need to get those stacks. That's kind of the whole reason you play the Senna, is to just be oppressive, have that attack speed, have that attack range, just be shelling out unavoidable damage from the side of TBR.
Yeah, it just cut down to 345. I was wondering how the hell it was that high, but it's because there's 2 plates down on the bot turret for TBR.
About to be a whole lot more, because unfortunately Hacker was waiting in the bush. Koreas was able to flash out. Peppermint is now running to the jungler, and okay, BP, yet another play that doesn't necessarily go their way. And off pressure, TBR may be able to take this dragon, so a little bit of a commitment from BP, but not a whole lot to show for it. And they're going to rotate their mid lane over here.
I think TBR, as long as they position correctly for this fight right here, okay, Peppermint is way out of position. Okay, this is looking really bad.
Ooh, Death Star wants to get on top of the ADC, gets locked down though, and now the teleport coming out from League of Lehigh. Uh-oh, BP missing some important team fighting tools, and now they're maybe on the back foot. Silver, he wants to get involved with this one, wants to prevent League of Lehigh from being able to get the lockdown on any of the other members. This dragon is still aggroed, and BP, even though they've lost one member, they're trying to stick around. They want to fight for this dragon. As the Jinx is going to recall and run right back out. Silver waiting in the wings, but it looks like both teams are going to look to call this off.
Yeah, great win for TBR. I don't think they expected to actually come out and win that team fight, but Death Star just overstepped his boundaries a little bit too far and ends up getting taken out because of it. Maybe a little bit overzealous to take out the carries on the side of TBR, but that mistake almost resulted in the second dragon, and if you are on the Black Rose, you are more than happy to take that team fight and scale into this late game.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something I was going to point out earlier. This is a couple minutes old, but I think still relevant. The macro from both these teams, I think, is on point. I think we're seeing why we consider these teams to be some of the best in the league. And I think, obviously, why we have high expectations. Like, you know, all throughout this game, there's been trading consistently back and forth in terms of objectives, but we're going to have to hold on to that thought because Baby Josh wants to trade some of his health for 2 quick kills on the bot side, going to the Jinx and a best of 1-1. So a little bit of a chicken nugget meal there. Everyone getting a little bit of piece of something, and now Chono can look to take up this dragon. BP, they get caught out by a tempo play from TBR.
Yeah, a great play by TBR, recognizing that a lot of the cooldowns were already down for the side of BP in this bot lane. Jyrell and Baby Josh is playing a little bit too aggressive, not understanding that Chono was waiting in the rafters to come and punish them. And we're going to see a replay right now. Casillas just setting up this play perfectly, acting kind of dopey in order to get them to walk forward a little bit. As soon as they turn around, the Unstoppable is able to land onto Baby Josh. He's able to fall soon thereafter, and the double kill just comes straight through. So, great play by TBR, like I said, results in the second dragon in the game. And, you know, we were talking about it during Champ Select. You've got this Ornn who is going to be scaling very quickly now that we're past that 15-minute mark, and the ornaments are going to start coming through. The Jinx is going to start getting empowered, and once they get the items, they could be, BP could be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, and I think right now for TBR too, this top lane is for the most part stabilized. Yes, you know, it is a significant CS lead for Silver, but that's really not a whole lot to write home about. Is they're going to try and dive Kratos on this bot side. Jarell is eating up so much of the turret aggro, but he manages to just get away. His ultimate comes out and locks down the Jinx. They'll be getting their first tower to this one. Peppermint, though, wants to try and see if they can lock up a couple people. This turret still active, still taking damage. Philomena has joined the fight. Hacker trying to get away. Oh, nice flash away from the shockwave, so there will be no trade. BP get what they want and they get out.
Yeah, a great return play by BP to punish the offset back timings on the side of Black Rose. Chono might be able to get this Rift Herald, though, off of that play, so really is going to end up being a positive play for TBR in terms of gold value. Yeah, I felt like even though they got that play, they had to retreat immediately after. Jyrell, like you said, took way too much damage from the tower. Haker was able to take off the tower aggro just last second and save him, but Chono might be in a bad position here. Flashes that already.
Will be able to get out, gets to the very edge of the Between Worlds, but yeah, is going to be going down. So, unfortunately, the little price that you have to pay there for trying to be aggressive and take the Herald, but they do still get the objective, and that's going to be gold in their pocket for later.
Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, they still got the Rift Herald. Is it worth the death? I'm not too sure. It really just depends how
I think
BP
so.
play off of that. It looks like Hacker is going to take the red buff, so trying to do what he can and take advantage of the fact that Chono is no longer on the map. And then it looks like Baby Josh is trying to clear out a lot of the wards that Peppermint and Chono set up earlier in the game.
I dubbed the Peppermint Jack.
Yeah. This is an interesting game, but if I'm being honest, I would much rather prefer the position that TBR is in right now. They've already got the 2 Dragon Souls, or Dragons stacked. They're on their way to get that Dragon Soul at a relatively quick time. If they can get that third Dragon point, it's going to be really dicey for the side of BP going into this late game, especially once these ornaments start hitting. That being said, Silver does have a 1.3k gold lead on the top side. He's doing just fine. Nice little 30 farm lead there. Plus the solo kill is going to help with that.
Peppermint, Magnet Storm on the 2. Jarell slowly getting bursted down. Kratos on the backside, putting the rockets into multiple people. Won't be able to secure a kill just well yet. Meanwhile, on the bot side, though, Philomena trading aggressively with Death Star. Forces the flash out from the Aurora. She's trying to bounce forward to get a little bit more damage on to the Orianna, but no trades just yet. So aggressive fighting across the map, but nobody drops.
Yeah, both flashes burned there for both mid laners. Philomena had to use it just to get away there off screen at the last second. But a great flash by Death Star to get out of that ultimate. I think if that ultimate hits, Philomena might be able to follow up with enough damage to actually kill him in that 1v1, but Death Star able to get the better of that trade.
I'd like to see Chono in the next 30 to 40 seconds whenever that drag timer gets close. I think really, to be honest with you, actually probably 50 seconds just to get right when that dragon does start to spawn. I'd like to see him place that Herald in the mid lane just to get that tower down. And then rotate that with pressure over to the dragon. I think if they can get to a 3-dragon stack and buy just a little bit more time, because I think right now BP is a little bit better in the team fighting, just some of their items are better. But as this time goes on, it'll get better for TBR. So I think if they can time that well, get themselves a 3rd drag, they can go the next next, couple drags after that if they just want to sit there and scale and wait for League of Lehigh to start, handing out some nice little ornaments. But I think the timing for TBR is going to be really important here. I want them to put that Herald in the mid lane, not towards bot.
Yeah. It's important to note that every single ultimate for all champions will be up by the time that dragon spawns.
Yep.
So it really just depends, how Silver and League of Lehigh want to play around this one. If TBR is in position and they have a nice teleport ward set up for Lehigh, I think they're going to be looking very good going into this team fight. But, it just depends. How does BP want to play it? How do they want to play around their vision that they've already set up in this bot side? It really looks like Peppermint is putting in overtime just to make sure that they have good positioning going into this one. And, they should. This is going to be a very important dragon fight for them, especially if they can get it.
Yeah. I think the key here is going to be having good vision and maintaining that to make sure that they see all these angles. And I think specifically for TBR, you need to make sure that Hacker is tagged. You cannot let him get easy access onto Koreas. You have a tremendous amount of front line. Philomena's able to buy space, so it's just make sure you do the homework. Make sure that you tag this out. A Herald not going to be placed yet in the lane, so I don't necessarily like the way that TBR is handling this right now. They could be creating pressure everywhere else, but they are going to rotate all 5. Silver is tagged up for right now. Remember, protect the Jinx. Don't allow her to get tagged up. As Silver already working towards the backside, trying to put some damage in. Philomena going to go in golden, so even the Senna ult not going to do a whole lot, but I think it's not going to matter because Chono's going to get knocked down, so the jungler for TBR is dead, and now BP, they're going to make the use of their damage. Silver is traded, so it's a 1-for-1 right now. The TBR has been forced out of this one. BP are going to work their way back. Recalls are going to come through. Teleport available for Philomena, but everything's going to cool off for a second. And I think TBR, they're just going to make the call to leave this one alone.
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and give this one up to BP. Silver creating so much space in that fight. We're going to have to watch this replay, and here we are. Silver immediately diving onto Philomena and really causing a huge gap in spacing between the carries on the side of TBR and the rest of the team, the rest of BP, who they're trying to damage. So they're really just stuck blowing all their cooldowns onto Silver. He even manages to take the Jinx ultimate, and it ends up being a 1-for-1, but at the end of the day, you'll take the 1-for-1 as long as you get the dragon along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. As we are going to get back to live here in just a second, I'm going to fix this Fog of War thing. I want to unbind that. Save. Alrighty, we're going to be back into the game. I was tired of that thing popping up, so... But no, I mean, absolutely. I think the big thing, too, is TBR getting split there. It was I think the call was also split, not just the fact that their positioning was split, but, like, they didn't group as 5, and they allowed their squishier members to kind of get focused by Silver in a way that I don't think was productive for the way that they wanted to approach that team fight. And then I'm also, again, as I highlighted, I wasn't happy that they didn't place the Herald in that mid lane. You want to create some kind of threat in order to try and pull BP off, because in some sense, BP have an even easier job in terms of who they want to target than TBR does. It's really only the one person that you're worried about, and it's that Jinx. If you can prevent her from getting that frenzy going, prevent her from getting excited, then the team fights are easy, especially not having to deal with the Jinx rocket damage. And so I think TBR, I think they just didn't pay enough respect to that. I think that their calling was off there. So,
yeah, I mean, Silver has enough tankiness to be able to really just get in the face of the carries for TBR and not really care much as to what their answer is. Jinx does not have any armor pen yet. That is their go-to, answer for the end game, right? They need that armor pen on Jinx in order to deal with Silver. Once she does have it, Silver can't do the same thing that he just did, right? He can't just sit in the faces of 4 members and not die, right? But until then, Silver is doing exactly what he needs to do. He's spacing correctly. He was creating a massive gap that just allowed his team to take advantage of and get a better positioning over that dragon. Some aggression coming out on this top side.
Lehigh throws out the Ornhorn. Silver goes unstoppable, but I think Lehigh should have this. Again, just trying to land those Untouchable strikes. He is a lot tankier than he looks, and now he's starting to win the 1v1. Forces out the flash from Lehigh. Senna ult goes through the uprights. I think League of Lehigh should be okay underneath that turret, but it was just weird because Silver is so deceptively tanky. It looked like Lehigh was going to start to win that fight, but then Silver just continues to land the Qs, going unstoppable over and over again, and just that base shielding that the Cassante has is so incredibly difficult to deal with. And, you highlighted a second ago that armor pen, like the one big person whose job it was to make sure that that armor pen was getting, or that the armor was getting shredded on that Cassante was Chono, who was, he was TBR's player of the series in the last series that they played. And so you're looking for that Ambessa to try and make sure that's, Silver on the Cassante can't really get towards that backline. He can't survive these team fights for a long time. Well, where was he in the middle of that fight? Well, he was trying to take Dragon. And so I think for TBR, that's not the recipe for success.
Sorry, I had to sneeze. I agree. Chono definitely has the the kit that allows the innate armor shred. But he was, like you said, in a different spot of the map. He wasn't there to be able to shred the armor to allow Curious to actually do the amount of damage that he needs to do onto that Cassante. I wonder if they're going to change things up. I wonder if that was the call. After that fight, they kind of lived and learned what they need to do moving forward. That being said, talk about 500 years. This Cassante champion is so disgusting. You already highlighted it before. Yeah. But the innate shielding, the amount of just surprise damage you can do at low health, and the amount of tankiness that you have, despite your health bar being so low, is just always surprising with this champion. It's so difficult to deal with, and I'm glad that it won't be around for Game 2 or Game 3.
Yeah. Something I want to highlight, which was something we were talking about earlier, Jarrell right now, only 67 stacks on the Senna. I really would have expected that to be quite a bit higher right now. That said, yeah. I mean, at that... Yeah, it's okay. I mean, at this point, like the attack range, the damage is already starting to come through. So even right now, like there's not a lot that TBR can do with how rangy the Senna is already becoming. But I think just from like a scaling standpoint, you would have expected the Senna to be a little bit better off right now. So
yeah. I think Senna should have more stacks. I think the damage output is going to be a bit of a problem the more that this game goes on. And Besa is going to start getting, I believe, the third item or the fourth item will be Death's Dance. Lehigh is going to get stronger as the game progresses. I mean, just a lot of health items I'm assuming will be built onto Philomena.
Mm-hmm.
And, Peppermint is just going to start getting more tanky items as the game goes on. So, game's going to become a lot tougher for BP. It really is going to come down to target acquisition and management and really positioning for Hacker and Silver to see if they can dive this backline with ease.
Yeah. I think for TBR, the checklist in every fight is to kind of do two things. First of all, shred Silver at the beginning of it so that way he can't sit there and, infinitely take all the damage that TBR is throwing out. And then I think also, too, make sure that Hacker is tagged up. As long as you can track that Wukong and make sure that he's not getting an easy engage, then these team fights become a lot more manageable. But obviously, that's easier said and done right now. I still favor BP State right now, just how strong they are. I think, in the next 4 to 5 minutes, once we start to see third, fourth item completions, especially given the fact that Kratos already has the upgraded Infinity Edge, I think that tone will start to change. And also TBR, again, not in the biggest rush because they secured those 2 dragons earlier. It means that they have plenty of space to work with. They're not on a timer right now. They can continue to wait this out. But something I wanted to point out is, as we're getting ready for this drag fight, is just kind of how clean this game has been, really, for both teams. There haven't been too many major blunders other than just a couple of things in the team fights that we've seen. It's a relatively low-kill game, and I think that kind of signals to how not only skilled both these teams are, but I think how carefully they want to play this. Let's see where Deathstar wants to come in. He is flanking. Chono knows he's there. Ornhorn is going to get missed on the second cast, and now the Hacker on the backside. 4-man Cyclone, Baby Josh to follow up. Deathstar on the other end just to secure the kills. TBR, you failed the test. You only have the one job to make sure that Wukong couldn't get in for free, and they're going to get obliterated in this team fight. All 5 dead for TBR. BP, they run away with a fight at the Dragon.
Yeah, no, excuse me. Exactly what we thought would happen was what happened, right? BP pulled the trigger. They set up Hacker for a perfect engage. We're going to watch it right here. Deathstar's in the rafters just waiting for a mistake to be made. Chono ults into absolutely nothing. That sets up the play. Silver in the front line. The ultimate comes through from Ornn and hits absolutely nothing. Jarrell and Hacker go to work with the initial 4-man ultimates, followed up by Baby Josh soon thereafter to get 4-man taunt and knockup, and after that it is just all said and done. The damage comes out and eventually results in a triple kill for Deathstar. That's who you want the kills going on if you're on the side of BP, and it also nets them the Dragon and this Baron.
Yeah, and BP, massive power play off of that, so already the lead, which was slightly in the favor of TBR, is not going to be 3,500 swung back the other way. This doesn't even include all the gold they're about to get with this push. And TBR already frantically, they're trying to run out to the lane, get these waves pushed as hard and as far as they can before BP has a chance to go and resync them. And now I'm really concerned for TBR because that was the one thing that we were talking about was, hey, you're trying to stay even in this state right now. You're trying to make sure that you're not giving any easy fights over to BP, which I think at the beginning of that Dragon fight, they were doing a good job. They weren't allowing anything to go over. But then once you see Lehigh start to miss the second cast of that Ornhorn, and once you see Deathstar come back over the wall and Hacker just get in the middle of 4 people, that's when your spidey senses start to go off like, oh man, this may be the turn of the game here for TBR. And even though TBR do still have have the scaling element available to them right now, I think that's being massively outweighed by just how far ahead that BP are playing right now. Peppermint underneath the mid lane shell of the turret that was there is going to get collected. Lehigh is going to be here. This may be another lost team fight for the side of TBR. Philomena on the backside manages to land the shockwave on a 2, but there's just no damage. Chono goes down. They do manage to eventually kill Silver, but it took everything that they had. Death Star now going to go into the ultimate, and BP are starting to clean this up. It's all we can do to just shake our head and smack our foreheads. Lehigh is going to get collected as part of a triple kill for BP's mid laner, and this may very well be the end of the game. Massive team fight in the mid side for the Baggy Pampers.
Yeah, it did seem like for a second there might have been a chance for Correas to actually start popping off and get some resets there. But then Death Star just decides to pull the trigger, goes in and instantly just blows up Philomena and Correas in the backside and just immediately ends the game off that play. Excellent pull of the trigger by BP, realizing that they could end the game right then and there as soon as they got that good team fight going.
Yeah. Just want to clarify that first misban for TBR is a Scion ban, so BP will not have their chance to draft that. And I think now for TBR, you just mentioned something that I think is really important, is they have an interesting challenge, which is not only do they need to win as a group of 5, throughout the entirety of these moments in the game, but I think also, they're going to be challenged 1v1 in these lanes. They really... except for, I think, a couple moments where Philomena was kind of getting the better of Death Star in some of those early trades, they really were at a disadvantage the entirety of that laning state. All 3 laners did really have pretty good leads. Really, the only thing that we saw that kind of was going BP's way, I think, kind of in that early game, was Chono getting an advantage over Hacker and had about a 1.4k gold lead at some point. But then, once they got to the team fighting points, that lead just evaporated.
Yeah, it really did. The team fighting really is what ended up pulling the game into BP's favor. That being said, the Smolder first picked from the side of Black Rose. This is one of those champions that is just highly prized by this league in general. It seems like every single team has someone that can play this champion. The question becomes, are they going to pivot this into the mid lane if the matchup seems pretty scuffed on the bot side? But the Jhin picked up for BP.
I love this pickup from BP. I love Jhin as a champion. Yes, he does have some early game woes in terms of his damage, but this is a champion that, when you talk about being oppressive in the late game, is incredibly difficult to deal with in team fights. Absolutely deletes champions off the face of the planet. It doesn't matter if you have 10,000 health and a million armor, he will just one-shot you. And so, especially for the Smolder too, that Jhin going to be looking for the little tiny dragon in the bot lane to delete him off the face of the planet. But as you highlighted, Smolder is one of those staple champions that gives you a tremendous amount of team fighting capability, great scaling in the late game. Obviously, you have to spend some time getting the stacks, but once you reach that 225 mark, you start to become a global threat that everyone has to be aware of. So TBR, at least in the beginning right now of this draft, giving themselves some options. I'm curious what they want to put alongside it, if they want to pair it with an enchanter, or if they want to give them some reliable draft. As you were talking about the Sedge.
Yeah, I would love to see the Sedge here. I mean, I'm a big hater of Vi getting first picked, or picked in general just this early in the game. I'm not a big fan of it. There's just way too many champions that can be picked to completely counter the entire identity of this champion. Lulu being one of them, right? Just like you ult into Lulu, or Bard is great, right? If Vi ults onto Bard or anyone else, he can ult the combo, and then the entire team just gets set up and instantly kills you as soon as the ult wears out, and you did no damage. So, I don't know. Viego's a good pickup here. I mean, it's just a good pickup in general. It's a strong champion, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Vi being picked this early. We'll have to see what they pair it with, but TBR does have some options they can pick into it.
I'm a little concerned for TBR with this Viego just because this is such a feast or famine champion. And in my opinion, it's like you're already taking what is going to be a skilled, reliant champion that has plenty of opportunities to be abused and shut down into a composition where they're already going to have quite a bit of draft threat in terms of the CC that they could throw out and a lot of opportunities to counter the Viego. I do think in the 1v1 Viego versus Vi, I think obviously it's Viego favored, but you're taking a very, very big risk that you're going to get the most out of this Viego and not get punished by it on the side of BP. And so for TBR, I hope that this works out for them, but I am concerned.
Mundo will be such a sick pickup for TBR in this draft. I don't know at what phase you'd want to be picking it, but you know, it already looks so strong into what BP is trying to draft here. Like, you know, they're trying to get this pick orientated, kill one person off at a time kind of play style. And so I think if you're on TBR, you just draft 2 beefcakes that are never going to die in these team fights unless BP really drafts some sick like a Gwen or something. You're going to need some sustained damage with this team comp, or else your damage is going to be so low in the late game. In terms of sustained damage, dude, the damage is so low here. I really think that TBR has the opportunity to really take advantage of this.
Ooh, and the
Lissandra's great into the Vi. This is already looking really good for TBR. I love this draft so far.
Yeah,
the Mundo would just be so insane here. I hope they grab it. Either Mundo or some other insane beefcake that can just, survive through the CC.
Well, there's a couple of other beefcakes available. Gnar is available. Renekton, okay, not necessarily a beefcake, but I'll take it. I am, however, concerned because BP, they're not going to get this counter in the top side, and there are a couple of champions that would be really good in their Renekton, the Gnar chief among them. Let's go through some of the other things that are still available. No Cassante, no Ambessa. There is, I was going to say Malphite, but he's taken off the board.
Cannon would be good.
Yeah. Kled might also be a decent answer here into the Renekton as well if BP wants to take that risk, but they are instead going to go with the Urkon. How could we forget about the man with the shotgun knees and to this crocodile? We'll have to see what they can get done. It's game number 2 now on the Rift. BP and TBR fighting for that top of the standing. Again, TBR, they want a chance to maybe contend for first, but they have a lot of work to do. And it starts with getting back in this series, and even then their fate may not necessarily be in their hand, even if they could win this series, as BBC would have to immediately drop their series versus Baggy Pampers tomorrow. But for now, we're going to focus on this game. The other thing I want to talk about, too, is kind of something we were talking about a little bit earlier, is this individual lane prowess for the side of BP. And given that Silver now has himself the Urgot, which does have a winning lane into the Renekton already, I'm a little bit more concerned from the side of TBR, because I do feel like if that lane gets out of hand and if Urgot gets off to a massive gold lead, is able to get a bunch of kills, then TBR's job becomes even harder. Yeah, no, I think Vi has, like I said earlier, has a clear decision of what lane she should be focusing, and that's the top side. Silver not only has the winning champion matchup, but also took that Ignite. So this matchup is just going to be really, really difficult for Lehigh until he gets the ultimate. And I'm curious to see if Hacker spends any time in that top side before they hit level 6. Yeah, and I even had 2 schools of thoughts in terms of like the ability to even dive the Renekton. The first school of thought is, well, okay, as long as he has Dominus, it should be a little bit difficult to pull that off, just because he becomes incredibly difficult to finish off in terms of getting the execute, and then also like just his ability to trade damage back with Slice and Dice, and just the inherent passive that Renekton has, does protect him. On the other side, though, the problem is that Silver just has a threshold where his ultimate just goes off, and so it doesn't matter how tanky you are. If you get below that, he doesn't have to finish you off. He could just grab you from underneath the turret. And so a nice little pressure gank from Vi just to burst him down and throw out the ultimate, then it becomes a little bit difficult for the Renekton to survive there. So I think for Lehigh, it's just about playing safe and don't put yourself in a position to get ganked. Yeah. Play off of vision well. Get a pink ward, place it, deep into that top side jungle. They save lives.
Make sure...
Blackmage, they save lives.
Make sure that I agree. BP's job, a hacker's job in this game, is to track Chono. Make sure that you understand exactly where he is at all times to prevent Silver from falling behind in this lane, because if left to his own devices, he should be able to pull ahead in this one. And yeah, I agree. If hacker's able to just do some nice burst damage onto Lehigh, it really makes this lane extremely volatile. It's going to make him have to back a lot more. He's going to start losing CS. And it's going to be a downward spiral for that champion. So, TBR have a big task ahead of them. They have to survive through this lane phase, which, a lot of teams have failed at doing against this BP roster just because of how talented they are. I will say on the flip side of things for TBR, some of the threat that they have inherently with this Lissandra makes this game interesting, because this is one of those champions that is so annoying to deal with. Like, if she's able to get in the middle of 3 or 4 people and her ult starts to pop off, not only just because the safety it provides her, but then just the passive damage that it does, to a bunch of people in that team fight.
makes this something that VP are going to have to navigate and be very careful about in the team fights, and especially if Philomena starts to get any sort of lead. You know, the Lissandra's really not a champion that you want having a lot of extra gold, just because if she gets accelerated in her items, then she becomes difficult to deal with. And so I think for BP, that's going to be their thing is, hey, let's make sure that this Lissandra isn't having an easy time, you know, getting things done. Is to start going to be dodging that early engage from Chono, who used the flash to do it. So that's going to be a little unfortunate for TBR. That's definitely not what they would have wanted.
Yeah, TBR, the flash burnt is a huge red flag. But that being said, Chono is not on a champion that has the best of ganks in that mid lane, and Deathstar is indeed playing on Ahri, which we all know is one of the most evasive champions in the game. So not in too much of a bad spot. And that being said, though, flash burn for Lehigh, that is a dangerous spot to be in. Hacker is most definitely going to be making his way up to that top side after he clears his bottom camps. And Lehigh is really going to have to watch out and make sure that he's paying attention to the map state.
Well, both junglers not really had much of a chance to get involved in this early game. Obviously, Chono tried about a minute or so ago. That didn't go so well for him. And Hacker is now going to be looking to potentially set up for this first dragon take. I think especially with BP's state in the lane right now, they have the opportunity to do that, as Deathstar is just freezing this wave in the mid lane and tempting Philomena to come just a little bit closer.
Yeah, Philomena doing a great job. Completely even in farm. Is not easy to do against an Ahri. Silver and Lehigh doing some trading here. Lehigh is 6 and has the advantage.
Yeah, but I think that Dominus is not going to be enough to lock down the Urgot, so he will just go in there and use that to shove the lane. But I think Silver is like, hey, cool story. I don't really care. I'm just going to continue to put down the damage. Philomena flash forward, locks down Deathstar, but he does have access to the ultimate. But it's not going to matter. First blood goes over to TBR. That's what you'll want to see from the Roses in red. Great job. Great first play by TBR.
Yeah. I'm not too sure if the ultimate... you know what it was? Philomena flash ulted so that Deathstar did not have the chance to actually use the extra stacks of the ultimate to be able to escape that one. Just a great heads-up play by TBR, and we're going to watch the replay here. We can see that Ahri, I think, gets one ult off of the 3 charges. And immediately, Philomena takes advantage of it by flashing onto him.
Oh, there was a second charge, so he used the second charge there.
There was a second charge. He used the second charge. Okay, so he was out of charges then by the time that this play takes effect. So Philomena flashing forward, ulting.
Yeah, and it
followed
expires.
up by the W root. Yeah, followed up by the W root, followed up by the root on Chono. Just an excellent play by TBR. You're going to be feeling great about that play, especially when it comes down to Deathstar. You know, we talked about it earlier. He is the star player of the league. He's the one that we all look out for. He's going to probably get the MVP award at the end of the season, just based on his performance alone.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because, you know, if they drop this series tonight, we got to start.
True.
You know, if you lose this and then, you know, you're in a 3-way tie, you know, I'm just saying there's a lot of different ways that this could go. As Philomena, nice little E activation. Charm will pull Philomena out of turret range. Isn't able to charge there. That was a nice little play, though. Even though it does go down, I do like the attempt there. And so it will be 1-for-1 trade. BP get that one. But TBR doing pretty good so far.
Yeah, Hacker getting his get back, and there's some more damage going on to Chono over here on the bot side.
Wait a minute, BP. They made themselves another angle. Curtain call is going to come out. Peppermint stuck underneath the turret, but the vision's not good. On the third shot, it collects it. As Jarrell, that was the one champ he didn't want getting any gold, and so that Jin's going to be walking away with another turn. All right, this is starting to get a little bit scrappy in this game. This is definitely a much different game than we saw in the first one.
Something to note, Lehigh solo killed Silver. And Silver used Ignite, so, you know, right here we're going to be watching Hacker ends up getting his get back, gets the
go back to
kill
live.
onto Philomena. Go back to live, something's happening. Lehigh is winning this matchup. This is definitely not anticipated, but anyways, as we were saying before, BP ends up getting a kill out of that trade. Peppermint flashes forward to try and get the root onto Hacker. Meanwhile, on the top side, Lehigh jumps onto Silver and is immediately going to actually win that trade and get the kill. On the bot side, rather, Jarrell Reborn ends up popping the ultimate, guesses, and is able to get the kill onto Peppermint with the last shot. And at the end of the day, BP is going to definitely walk away with the win on that one, but still, hats off to Lehigh taking advantage of that lane in the top side. Really didn't think he'd be able to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can't understate or overstate just how important that is for Lehigh, especially, you know, as this game starts to go longer, where, you know, at some point the Renekton will not be as useful as the Urgot, just with the amount of damage that the Urgot is able to put out in the team fights. I think as much as you can keep this Urgot down, I think will be important. So I think Lehigh, that'll be a big confidence gainer there in terms of knowing that, hey, I can go toe-to-toe with this Urgot and I have the ability to take it down.
Yeah. And a gold lead. Solid gold lead for the side of TBR. BP does end up getting the first dragon, so going to feel good about that one. At least delay dragon stacking for TBR. But TBR, to be honest, I really don't think they care too much about losing that first dragon. They are just looking to get out of this lane phase in a positive scenario.
Yep. Ooh, Lehigh gonna pop the Dominus. He should be fine there. Solely Silver should be fine. Then on the back end, Chono was taking grubs there. But no, I mean, I agree. Like, they're not in a rush. Like, it's only one dragon. It's not the biggest thing. You're also trading for pushing power with the grubs, so you're at least getting something, you know, managing that macro in terms of not losing a bunch of the early neutral objectives. And so, also, I think, too, like, for TBR, like, they have time. Even if they have to drop a second drag, I think it'll be fine as long as they can trade for something across the map. So,
yeah. I think that TBR is more than happy with the state of the game, being nearly, you know, 1,000 gold ahead, and, you know, you've got these lanes that really do scale quite well.
Jarrell managed to land that deadly flourish and put a little bit of damage into the smolder there. We'll say Peppermint doing a really good job landing these, or not Peppermint, sorry, but Baby Josh doing a really good job landing these hooks. I also love that skin, the Crystal and Dominus.
Oh yeah, it's so sick.
It's a great skin. Now Hacker has made his way into this bot side. I don't know that there's really a gank angle here, especially with Chono. They need to be careful. Correas and Peppermint would love to bait Jarrell and Baby Josh forward. Hacker gonna land the hook. Oh, this is not what they wanted. Uh-oh, BP may have overplayed their hands as now the Viego gonna get involved. Nice Bard ultimate. This is what we were talking about. Needed to be active in it. The Hacker, though, wants to get a little bit more involved. Chono's going to grab the first kill of the fight. Philomena's here. The rest of BP runs to safety. They drop one, but there will be no further fighting.
Yeah, a great counterplay by TBR. It's one of those moments where you say, you know, we're not locked in here. Or, oh, I fucked that one up. Anyways.
We're not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with us. I got you, buddy. I'm just coming to the rescue. Here, quick, throw it to a replay. Don't look.
Yeah, oh man, my script fell apart.
But this all starts off with Baby Josh, though, so walk us through, because he's going to land this hook and get a little too close and then try and throw out the ultimate, and then what happens from there?
Yeah, so we're going to watch as Baby Josh, you know, tries to pull the trigger, says, you know what, let's just go in finally, but steps too far forward and actually falls for the trap. The ultimate comes out for Peppermint, sets up a perfect grab onto Baby Josh, who's going to fall here soon thereafter by Chono with the ultimate, and that's going to be basically the end of the fight. But, you know, just a great heads-up play by TBR, recognizing, you know, hey, where is the jungler on the side of BP? He must be in this bot side. We've been tracking him this entire game. They knew that there was going to be a play by virtue of the fact that they were getting pushed into the tower, able to counterplay it perfectly, and results in a kill. And we might have a similar situation on this top side. No.
Well, and for me, too, I think one of the things that BP actually even lucked out more was the fact that they actually didn't wait even longer for that play to happen. They lucked out because if that play happens even 5 to 8 seconds later, Philomena's there and absolutely nobody gets out. Then it's a disaster. It's bad enough to drop the support in that instance, but at least they did a good job of making sure that nobody got on top of Jarrell, and that obviously Hacker didn't go down. They were able to get away from there, but that's really not through dint of any skill. To be honest with you, no disrespect to BP, but more just like, hey, we got lucky that Philomena wasn't there faster.
Yeah. No, I think that Philomena is having an excellent game. You know, being even in farm against Death Star is already a feat in and of itself, but the fact that you're on Lysandra, who is just this champion that scales so well into the mid game, especially once you get that first and second item.
All right, this is about to not be good, but I'm not sure for who, because it is a man disadvantage, at least both ways. This is a scanner fight. Bard ult locks down 2. Meanwhile, they want to try and get a little bit more damage done, but Philomena will collect the first one. Resets for the Viego. It's a double kill for Philomena, and now BP got to get the hell out of Dodge, as it's just Silver and down. Death Star. Ooh, wait a minute. Chono, is going to donate himself over. But now League of Lehigh is here, and they might be able to get a little bit more done. Chasing underneath the turret is the Dominus. Lives for so long. Death Star can only watch as the Urgot is going to be turned against her. BP, what looked like a little bit of a sketchy fight, goes their way. And now they're getting a nice little gold lead for it as well.
Yeah, you know, this is kind of the fruits of their labor coming to pass. You know, TBR drafted a team that is very good at fighting off this dive-heavy composition on the side of BP. We see it right here. Philomena gets saved by Peppermint, is able to use the E to you know, realign himself and evade a lot of that damage. Not only that, but uses the ultimate in the early parts of the fight to get a ton of damage down onto the side of BP. And they're able just to turn around. There's so much, I guess the term would be displacement, time loss for the side of BP trying to make something happen during that team fight. But with, you know, Philomena's ultimate combined with Peppermint's ultimate, there's just so much you can do, so much time you can waste.
This is about to go from bad to worse from the side of BP. Baby Josh is going to be the first to die here. League of Lehigh is making sure that no one can get close to save the support. And now, TBR, they're going to look to collect themselves their first dragon of this game. And exactly what we were highlighting, like TBR, like they have the ease of execution here. They have the damage, and they've had an answer for everything that BP's wanted to do so far.
Yeah, they have an answer for whatever they want to do, and they have an answer in case they're on the losing side of a fight. They have the tools to prevent these dives from happening. And, you know, this is a big reason why I tell teams whenever I'm coaching, whenever I'm playing on them, I tell them, you cannot pick champions like Vi so early in the game and just kind of throw out your hand to the point where you can just completely draft around it. You know, we saw in the early phase, it was, if I recall correctly, it was Jhin, then Vi, then the Nautilus. It's like,
yeah.
You're telling me exactly how you want to play out this fight or this game, and there's just too many answers now with all the champions available in this game. So, yeah, I think a bit of a draft blunder for the side of BP. It's going to come, you know, it might bite them in the ass. Maybe not. You know, maybe they're able to just outplay it and overcome the odds. But I do feel like TBR is in a winning position at this point.
I don't know that I would call it a draft blunder just because of how strong BP have been throughout the entirety of the season. Is now TBR, they're going to have to prove that they haven't blundered this fight, as it's going to be an immediate reset for Chono, and they want to get a little bit more as Silver's going down. We were trying to sing his praises, but he has absolutely been thrown into the dumpster along with all the other garbage that TBR doesn't want to deal with. And now Silver's going to be sitting in the timeout zone for a little while. TBR, they are absolutely running away with this game.
Yeah, Lehigh, hats off to him. He is showing us a different side of him, right? We were not expecting Lehigh to be at the top of this matchup. We thought he would have a very hard laning phase. We thought the game would be pretty scuffed unless Chono could spend some time up in that top side. But guess what? He is absolutely destroying this lane. He's got a 1.5k gold lead over to himself already. He's got that black cleaver built, so the armor that Silver is trying to grab in order to counter a lot of this damage is not going to mean much at all. Ultimate coming out on Curious, but it's not going to really mean much.
Yeah, flat brings him to safety. Peppermint doing a lot. I wanted to sing his praises earlier because one of the things that I was worried about in the draft was, hey, like you really have to perform well on this board. You have to get the most out of this champion in order to make it worth it. But Peppermint, credit where credit's due, you know, has been involved in 6 of these kills and doing a really, really good job of staying mobile across the map, providing additional safety. Peppermint now, they're going to take the journey through the wall and cut off at least a bare minimum Baby Josh. Unfortunately, Jarrell actually won't get punished. I was getting ready to sing his eulogy. Baby Josh now going to flash away. He will, of course, be donated here in just a second. Curtain call going to come through. The Gen wants to put down a little bit of damage, but I think this is a little too late. Chono with the stolen Nautilus hook is going to go and get a kill. Gets away. TBR with a double kill in that bot side. And now they are well and truly in control of this game. I was trying to save TBR from saying it's a draft blunder. I still don't think it was, but they are absolutely not using it to the best of their capability, and they are getting heavily punished by TBR.
I just disagree. I think that it is such a mistake, let's call it, to draft in a way that's so easily counterable, and we see it in these fights. If BP does not instantly, and I mean instantly, blow up their target with the combination of their abilities,
sure,
there's too many answers. There's too many ways for TBR to stall out the fight for the rest of the team to show up, right? And not only that, but Philomena's going to get to a point where if she gets targeted, or he gets targeted rather, she can ult herself which does a ton of AoE damage. And then she's going to have the Hourglass eventually to stall even more. And then Peppermint will have the ultimate landing at that point to stall even longer. And so then who do you focus after that? Okay, well, let's focus Curious. Well, he's going to be all the way in the back line. You're not going to be able to reach him unless you get a really insane Nautilus hook. So
yeah, Philomena going to continue to put on that. As actually, Chono, bad guy ADC, steals the kill that Philomena worked so hard for. Can't believe it, dastardly guy. But let's continue on that line of thought for a second. So, I mean, draft runner. So let's take that a step further. So obviously, the first 2 picks for BP, it was the Jhin and then it was the Vi, which I think not necessarily the worst thing. Although you, I think, correctly highlighted. Like I think the Vi, I 100% agree that the Vi was not necessarily the blind pick you wanted to go there. But from a support standpoint, if they, let's say they don't lock in the Nautilus, what would you have rather seen than that champ?
If I have a Vi and a Jhin locked in,
yes,
I think that you've kind of already pigeonholed yourself because okay, what do you draft? If it's not the Nautilus, which is kind of the identity you're going for, I mean, you go with like a Nami or something, or some kind of enchanter,
or an Alistar.
Well, or like an Alistar. Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily help out your cause either. Now you have no kill pressure, right? You're only half committing to what your kind of ideal is for your team composition. I think drafting Jhin and Vi that early on is the main problem. You can correct it. You can correct it slightly if you draft mid and top a little bit differently, but yeah, you've kind of soiled yourself as soon as you pick those 2 champions one after another. I think like Xin Zhao would have been a better jungle choice with the Jhin.
Sure. Well, what would have been a better choice for the hacker would have been not to go so close underneath the turret with League of Lehigh, not only having disadvantage, but then also having help. As Philomena will not get involved. Pings are coming through. How aggressive does Philomena want to get? No objectives to play for right now. The second drag was taken by TBR in the interim. So let's continue that line of thought even further. So they lock in the Jhin, which I think is not necessarily the worst first pick. I think like you have a ton of options at that point, even if you do want to go with that champion. What would have been a better jungle lock in? So Xin Zhao, what would you have drafted at that point in from a support role in terms of trying to get a little bit more fighting power?
Yeah, so I think if you have a Xin Zhao or maybe or even like a Sejuani.
We're not gonna have time for that. We only have time to count to 1 as Chono's gonna go on a rampage and killing the Ahri. And this is the exact opposite of what we saw in the other game, is where BP were absolutely running the map. TBR has now turned it back on its head.
Karma would have been good.
Karma
would have a good pick, especially once you see the Smolder. Would have been a pretty good pick in that scenario.
Yep.
But you know, neither here nor there.
You
can always win with any Tom. It really doesn't matter. You know, I like to hop on team comps. It's something that I like to study and look at in my off time. But it really, at the end of the day, it just matters how you pilot the champions. If you can't pilot the champions, even in a winning team comp, it doesn't matter. It just so happens that TBR is doing a very good job at playing their team composition to its strengths.
Uh-oh. League of Lehigh may be getting donated here. Goes into the Dominus. Is healing right now, but I think there's enough damage for the side of BP to knock him down, so they will turn the Crocodile into a pair of Crocodile Dundee shoes, but it's going to be traded. Shono goes to the ultimate to avoid the turret aggro, and also the Bard ultimate was thrown out just for a little bit of good measure, and they're starting to put a lot of damage to these bot side turrets, and so BP, yes, you get the kill on the top laner, but was it really worth it?
Yeah, and that was a really close one in that top side. That being said, like Lehigh almost got the kill on the hacker. That would have been really crazy if he would have actually come out of that in a 1v2 with a kill. But Dragon stacking going towards the side of TBR. They're going to be happy about that one. And, you know, roughly a 10k gold lead. You know, that's exactly where you want to be against what has been regarded as the best team in the league.
Yeah. Well, and now for BP, I think, you know, because I don't want to count them out of this game, because obviously they're a very, very good team. They've been in this position for a while, and I think for, you know, the longest period, like, they've been kind of one of our teams to win this whole thing. No disrespect to, you know, the Big Bird Club, but it's just like BP have kind of been in rare form. Like, you don't, you know, really see a lot in rec leagues like this, and so it's been very impressive to watch them. But now, I think we're really starting to see BP get challenged, and I think that makes this potential game versus BBC all the more exciting. You know, if we start to see a little bit of weakness in this team, and certainly in, you know, in the drafting standpoint alone, because it's not enough to just win a game. You know, you want to be good in all areas of it. So they have an opportunity to correct their sins for now. So they're going to have a pretty good engage. Curtain Call is going to be coming through. But again, the tanky members here for TBR, they don't give a damn. They're going to start to challenge the rest of the BP members underneath the turrets and in their own side of the jungle. Jarrell can do nothing to stop this from happening. Mid lane turret goes down. TBR can just maintain that they have absolute control of the map right now. Lehigh's even pushing in the bot side. And really right now, it's feeling like there's just very little that BP can do.
Yeah, all these champions now have the 5th ability unlocked. It's called Wallet Slap, and you know, it just lets them win every single one of these team fights.
Dropped.
Exactly, and they're going to turn this into a Baron take, possibly into some more. Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, he should be fine.
That was a little sketchy for a second. Yeah, we're going to have to see what they do with this Baron take. I would expect them to actually do a split. Use Bard in the middle to quickly get an ultimate over to the side lanes if the need arises, and they should be able to take some more towers off of this.
Oh no! Oh no, the Baron slayed Chono. He was trying to come in and out just to make sure he could get the smite down and he gets killed. Oh, TBR, say it ain't so. We were just praising how cleanly they were approaching this game, but then they let the big purple worm kill the jungler. That's unfortunate. But the good news is they'll still have Baron on 4. And at least they'll be able to get themselves a dragon in the next few seconds. So we'll just call that an empowered recall. Because I want to replay that. I want to replay that. I want to see that again. It's going to be even funnier the second time. Look, Chono, like you can see him like, I may not have enough health to do this. You see him like walk through. He's passively healing, trying to go back. Oh, I can walk in, get the smite. Steps right into the ability.
Yeah, steps into the line nuke there.
It's even funnier the second
top
time.
Side. Leon needs to get out of there. He should not be in this position. You gotta wait for your team members to actually push up the lanes and equalize the lane states.
Well, then also, like, don't give an easy fight before Dragon, because if he goes down, then suddenly it's a looking for BP, and like, wait a minute. This Dragon that was off the table now might be ours to, potentially contest for. But he will be able to run back to the fountain and then teleport back in. And so this actually may not even need it. They'll just grab this Dragon. And so now for BP, I mean, Blackmage, my question is, what do they do from this point? They're massively down in gold and farm and items. They don't really have a way to fight. We were kind of talking about Silver potentially being the winning point for this BP squad, but I don't think that's going to happen. Chono's going to go legendary, kills the Nautilus, and now this potentially will be the final touches on this game as TBR, they're going to look to siege through. And they got a pretty healthy minion wave here.
Yeah, I think TBR is going to be patting themselves on the back a little bit after this one. Definitely a well-deserved set of plays going on. I think they're doing exactly what they need to do to close out this game. Group is 5. You've got the wallet to be able to do this. If they try to contest you, just kill them under tower. The tower doesn't help you, and they're doing it.
Yeah.
So,
gonna be final fight here. Chono gonna get on top of Silver to make sure that he can't get away. Goes into the stasis to provide, or to prevent rather, that return kill coming through. And so in the same fashion that BP dispatched TBR in the first game, TBR will return that favor. They're gonna put the final damage into the Nexus. There's really not a whole lot that BP can do. There's just gonna be a final couple kills. Wait a minute, I'm saying there's not a lot that they can do. Now the Nexus should be going down here. One more attack does it. TBR even up the series. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to Silver Scrapes.
I mean, you don't show your hand in the entire first phase. I think if you can save a lot of these power picks into the second half of the draft, it does open up those opportunities and make your composition a little bit easier to execute. It doesn't set you up for as much failure because the opposing team can't just completely draft gap you and counter what your identity is. So curious to see how BP pivots and what they decide to do going into this game 3. Especially because a lot of the safer 80 carries are off the board. That being said, Ezreal's still up, but a lot of the other ones, the long-range ones, are off.
Yeah. Well, BP, I think, wanting to make sure that TBR doesn't get any comfort, and so they will take the Renekton off the board just to make sure that TBR does not have an easy time of it. And TBR immediately going to lock at the Ashe Seraphine. As BP have already shown the Yanara. Now, BP, you got to have some challenges. What do you want to put with this Lulu taken away, but Nami still on the board, Soraka available, so is Melio, and obviously some engaged supports like the Thresh, the Leona, obviously available. So is the Braum. If they really want to block TBR, actually, I think Braum in here would be fantastic into the Ashe and the Seraphine.
Yeah, Braum would be absolutely monumental for the team. And the Melio, really? I mean, okay, it's not horrible with Yanara, just like in terms of like in a vacuum, that is a good duo champion combo in the bot side, but it definitely does not counter the Ashe Seraphine as much as a Braum would. I definitely think that was a missed opportunity there. But BP going to most definitely draft their jungler here. We're going to have to see what they try to pick into the Seraphine Ashe.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to draft their mid laner instead. They're going to go ahead and just grab Death Star the Akali. Death Star's Akali. Very scary. One of those champions that is kind of sought after in the community. We all know how strong Death Star is on this champion. Obviously, not wanting to end the day on a loss is going to pull this out as kind of the trump card here. And let's see what TBR decides to draft against it, if they even decide to counter it right now at all.
Yeah, I will say I'm not that upset about the melee, I'll be honest, just because his ultimate Breath of Life, being able to cleanse all of that ultimate. If you time it right, like, you know, if Ashe long range, my God, engage with the arrow, and then Seraphine, the Encore, like if you time it right, you're going to be able to counter both those abilities, and then what if you got a TBR? Now you're going to deal with a Yunara that's kind of fully stacking and running away with the fight. But obviously that timing is easier said than done. It's one thing to say, like, well, just press R, stupid. It's like, well, you know, it's a lot harder when you're getting both those abilities thrown at you and you're just not expecting it, especially if it's a snap engage. And I do like the TBR trying to follow this up with a little bit more engage and trying to counter this Akali. Vigar will be on lockdown duty to make sure that the Akali can't get out of the baby cage.
Yeah, okay, this is one of those champions that, like, on paper is like, yeah, this seems like a good champion against Akali, but it is such a hands check. I feel like the Vigar really has to use the cage at the correct time every time. If Vigar misses the cage, or it you know, puts it down while Akali smoke screens out and is not too sure if he actually locked in Akali, it is such a disastrous moment for Vigar because he has absolutely no ability to actually escape from the Akali follow-up. So yes, on paper, good pick. I think it plays well into the Ashe Seraphine identity. I think your setup and team fight is fairly straightforward, and so that's a good thing. But the lane phase is just really volatile. So we're gonna have to wait and see if Philomena is able to execute with his champion.
Yeah, the TBR trying to pinch the top lane pool a little bit, so the Mordekaiser and the Munda going to be banned away, especially for that jungle role. So we're starting to go through what is available in that top side in terms of some of the leftover champions. I mean, there's still stuff like the Malphite available, as is the Gnar, which are kind of some other staple champions that we've seen. But they might decide that they want to get a little bit kooky with this. Also, Cho'Gath was banned away. TBR, they want to give themselves some even more lockdown. So they grab the Jarvan BP. Now I think would be a decent time to grab yourself something like a Sejuani or a Xin Zhao here. You know, just give yourself a little bit of an answer to what TBR are getting down, because I think the name of the game right now for TBR is crowd control, champion control. CC is BP are going to grab the Yorick.
Yeah, BP are immediately electing into what I think they should do, which is, you know what, the team fight scuffed. You're not winning the team fight anymore. TBR has absolutely put all their eggs into the team fight basket. BP immediately pivoting, electing, hey, let's just get some strong side lanes going. They've got the Akali already. They've got the Yorick already. I would assume that their jungler is going to reflect this identity even more. I'm just guessing it's going to be some kind of split pushing bruiser. Okay, Nocturne.
Ooh,
maybe to get some
I don't like
advantages in the
this.
lane
I don't
states.
like this at all. I detest this so much. The only champion that is following up is the Akali. That is not enough. I really don't think BP made the right decision there. I do not like this Nocturne.
Yeah, I you know, on paper it's like maybe they're just trying to win lane phase harder, right? Nocturne is just going to be ganking nonstop, but it's like, okay, what if that doesn't happen? What if the Nocturne doesn't get the ganks off that he needs to, and you go into the mid game and late game where you're just stuck in this team fight?
It's going to be so much harder with that Rumble pick from TBR. They got to make the most of this one. And TBR, they've given themselves all the tools to succeed, including starting off with a nice little early ward kill. So small morale advantage there.
Yeah, it's the small wins. They're already winning lane phase. It's game over. Interesting is, you know, something interesting that's developed recently is that a lot of these auto attack champions in the bot side, the AD carries that really rely on the auto attack damage, tend to elect the Dorn's Bow over the Dorn's Blade. I just think that's, you know, I think at the beginning when this patch was released, the Dorn's Blade was still coming out on top, but laners realizing the attack speed is really strong.
Well, the ability to get your minions on time and get that lasted is super nice. And Peppermint, deciding to go with the root immediately forces out the cleanse. I do like that adaptation because normally, if you're Seraphine, you take that Q to get the empower trade. But I do like that that ability is immediately gone. So Jarrell going to be on the back foot for the remainder of this lane for at least another 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's huge. Ashe is the best AD carry with Seraphine for that reason, right? You're able to get the stun off, or I guess it would be a snare.
Yeah.
On Peppermint just that much easier. And like you said, yeah, it doesn't get better, right? This is going to be a very hard lane for Jarrell until they get some items, or if Hacker is able to actually create some. Oh man!
Oh, baby Josh manages to flash away, but that is just a really, really crappy consolation prize. As Jarrell can really do nothing from Chris and Peppermint doing a good job in trading, and so yeah, this lane is about to be very, very nightmarish for the side of BP.
And I really want to say hats off to Chris for not burning the flash there to get the greedy kill. I think by not flashing there, you prevent the 1-for-1, which is extremely important, right? You do not want to give BP any advantages in this early game. You pretty much got the late game on lock as long as the game's in an even lane state.
Oh, and look at this. Off that pressure, Chono's going to be able to invade and start to take away some of these camps. The Hacker, I think, is going to run out here, but unfortunately, Chono has help from Peppermint, so they're going to steal away this red buff, and there's really going to be nothing they can do about it. So this situation right now going from bad to worse for BP. They just don't know it yet. As an Nocturne, he's going to go clear his Raptors. He's going to walk over that red and see that it's gone. And yeah, BP already some of the early game woes at making themselves known.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of pressure is going to start being put onto Deathstar, who, by the way, is even in farm with Philomena. Not that it matters, it's still really early in the game, right? We're still level 4. But Philomena obviously is holding the cage as long as possible to prevent a lot of the early damage from Deathstar. By virtue of holding the cage, Deathstar doesn't want to walk up and kind of abuse him for field of retaliation. So Chono is on the champion that you want to have your jungler on when you're on Viger, right? You want to have these champions that can just dive in, close distance really quickly and cause a lot of burst damage, because that's kind of how you end up killing laners, and Deathstar is definitely not on a tanky champion. So
Chono's here.
He's
They're
top
try
side.
and gank Silver. They force out the flash. The Silver will be forced to get underneath the turret and be down that summer spell. And God, TBR, man, they are being really aggressive with their map moves right now. And something else I want to point out too, like, not only is Chono doing a really good job of being mobile, but then also like getting that invade onto the Nocturne guarantees that you know where he's going to be pathing. You delay that level 6 even longer and make it more difficult for the Nocturne to become really available to affect the game. And I think, for TBR, it's the big thing. As long as they can track Nocturne's pathing, they're less concerned about his engage.
Yeah, I think if your TBR towards the latter half, once you know that Nocturne hits 6, you really just play a defensive game. You're kind of happy with your lanes going down a little bit in gold, if it means that you can survive to that like 12 to 15 minute mark.
Yeah.
And if you get there, you're looking really good. If you're on Black Rose, I think you have a clear game plan of how you want to execute this game. And Lehigh will definitely be strong enough to hold his own against Silver if he's able to just survive this early set.
Yep. And Silver is going to get ganked again. Unfortunately, doesn't have the Rumble there to help him just because, unfortunately, Lehigh was getting pushed in. You're talking about confidence, though. One of the things I do want to point out is if you want to sign for how good a support is feeling about a game, you kind of look at their itemization just to see what they're able to get early. And the fact that Peppermint has built himself a tier, not only I think just because you can build that into the supportive item that the tier builds off, I'm forgetting that moment, but it's kind of the little circlet thing. But the fact that he's feeling that he can just go ahead and build that tier just to spam out more abilities to force out Jarrell and Baby Josh, signals to me like how good TBR are feeling about their chances in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, the only lane I'm really worried about at this point is mid. Deathstar is starting to win these trades pretty hard. He's sent Philomena packing, I think, twice now. So starting to have a slight farm lead. It really hasn't developed into much, but...
Yeah, Lehigh, I think, forced to throw out that ultimate just to make sure that Silver didn't come in. I will say, and this is, I don't know, I can't really isolate my feeling this way, but I am actually not concerned about mid. I'm really concerned about top. There's a sense of unease that I have with Silver on this Yorick, just because of how oppressive that champion can be, especially with, the Gravelings and being able to have the baby cages. I'm a little bit worried about Lehigh in terms of some of those longer trades, even though I know that, like, theoretically, the Rumble is kind of purpose-built to counter those minions coming up, just because, you get the Flame Spitter, which, allows you to kind of avoid, taking some of that damage. You just collect the extra farm. It's just AoE, which is great, but, like, I don't know. There's just something weird. I'm feeling like Silver makes me nervous in that top side.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, it's so oppressive that you have to auto attack the wall.
Yes.
You can't just, like, damage it, right? You have to auto attack it, which is just something that's, this is what I was talking about. The cage comes down and it doesn't hit Death Star, and it's just spells disaster for the trade. As a result of too much, Philomena is going to be able to catch this wave, which is really good, but just if that happens again, maybe another time when Death Star has an item, that might look different.
Yeah, I agree. Not sure what angle Death Star's looking for. He places the ward over the wall, so at least that they'll see that the Jarvan is taking that farm. But Chono also I think will be much closer to getting level 6 than Hacker will be. But once that Nocturne reaches that level 7, that's I think where you kind of have to start to pay attention to where he's at. Yeah, Lehigh, I'm already starting to get concerned about this a little bit, even though he has this level lead. With Maiden being out and then the Gravelings coming out, I think this is going to be... Oh, Hacker gets a nice little smite takeaway, so he returns the favor that he was ungraciously given by Chono earlier. Although
Chono is mid lane, though. They're looking to try to get a kill onto Death Star.
Death Star. Oh, one more auto would do it. Manages to dodge the Q with a Hacker and not able to get anything done either. So the Nocturne ultimate expended. Flash forced out from the Akali. Was it traded for Philomena's flash? And I think between the two of them, the Vigar's flash is a little bit more important, but a nice little play attempt there by TBR.
The fact that they came out, even there, despite the fact that Hacker had a level lead on Chono, is completely fine if you're on the side of TBR. I think you're more than happy to take that trade, especially because it's still 0-0, right? You watch that scoreboard until 12 to 15 minutes. That's kind of your goal. If they can survive until that 15-minute mark without the side lanes falling apart, or mid and top lane falling apart rather, then you're in a good position. And now they've even got the first Dragon Soul, so they're well on the way to getting that soul going for their team, and it's just really going to help out the teamfight prowess.
I will say, I think if you're kind of watching at home, you definitely need to keep your eye on this top lane matchup, because exactly how I thought this was going to start to go is starting to happen, where Silver is just able to push more effectively than Lehigh is. And now, this Rumble, who theoretically you would think has the ability to kind of contest the York to some degree, is just being oppressive here. And I mean, Lehigh, just like you talked about, having to fight out of that baby cage, it's a moment that you're not able to deal with the minions that Silver is summoning. And so I think Lehigh is going to continue to get pressured here. And so to me, the TBR need to look to try and get a more effective gank onto this York to start to push him behind, because the longer he goes undealt with, if he's just allowed to sit in his top lane, that's, I think, probably a bad scenario for TBR, where Silver just gets all this free gold, is able to push into the turret and all that kind of stuff. And so I want to see them try and be more proactive in dealing with him and put this York behind. Yeah.
Meanwhile, those grubs are going to be grabbed.
Which is great. BP? Which is great for York.
Great for York. Very, very scary if you're Lehigh. You are starting to fall behind in the farm. The 500 gold lead onto the side of York is definitely something that you want to happen if you're BP. This is what you're drafting for. You want your side lanes to just be really, really uber strong. Nocturne hovers them.
Oh, Baby Josh is going to get tagged up by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Gets knocked up from the Jarvan. They will at least finish him off. That looked sloppy there for a second. I thought maybe for an unconscionable moment that Baby Josh will somehow get away. As unfortunately, that ultimate wasn't enough to bring him to safety. The CC was layered just so nicely to where he couldn't escape. And so first blood goes over to TBR.
Yeah, you're more than happy with that. You want at least one of your lanes to win. You want Chono to have a clear gank target. And if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be this bot lane. They have just such great setup. Chris combined with Peppermint. This is just a combo as old as time, it seems. Ash Arrow comes out, immediately results in that kill. So, not only that, but they actually forced the flash out too.
Yes, which is also makes that nice for a repeat gank, which I'm sure they'll want to throw out here in the next couple minutes when that Ocean Dragon comes available. Something else I want to point out too is a counterpoint to something I was saying a minute ago. Again, I am concerned about Silver being given too much alone time in this top lane, especially against a Rumble that really isn't going to be able to do too much to kind of contest him. Like, York's kind of reached the point now where he's really not all that concerned about whatever Rumble's building or what damage he's doing. But I also think that as a counterpoint to that, TBR, I think they don't really care about losing resources in this top side in terms of like early place and stuff like that. I think that they've just made the they've done the mental calculation and have just reached the conclusion that they're better off just sacrificing in a lane somewhere and focusing more towards their team fighting. I think that's really what they care about more is this is going to bait out the Nocturne ultimate, who has decided not to fly in. I thought for a second he might repress it, but they do see 3 people, and so they decide not to follow up. But for TBR, I think that they're fine sacrificing the top side and like, hey, and they're making the decision to say, hey, we're just going to team fight. We're going to, fight around neutral objectives. That's where we're strong. We really don't care about this 1v1. Whatever we lose versus the Yorick, we'll make up for in these skirmishes and these big team fights. And yet another Channel Crystal arrow is going to come down, and Baby Josh has nowhere to go. Jarrell manages to get through. Chono does a really good job with a follow-up CC. The immediate cleanse to get out of the encore brings him to safety, but now with 3 members strong and no follow-up ultimate available for the Nocturne, TBR rather, will continue to be oppressive in this bot side.
Yeah, a great return gank. We said it as soon as the flash was down that Chono would be back, right? He's definitely got a preferred lane that he wants to gank in, and this is just a kind of a misplay by the side of Baby Josh and Jarrell. They knew that both Peppermint and Chono were off the map, right? They had no idea where they were, and yet they continued to push up into this mid lane despite Curious having that ultimate available, and they pay for it. So Baby Josh ends up following here soon thereafter. Chono gets a nice kill there, so it's going to feel really good on the Jarvan as you excel into this mid game. And TBR really in a position that they want to be. They are, pulling the trigger in the lanes where they need to. They are winning the lanes that they need to, and they just aren't bleeding enough. BP is not getting the advantages that they need in this mid and top lane.
Yeah. And I think I think the way that they even played that in the bots in terms of their target selection was fine, because I think it doesn't really honestly matter who they're targeting, because if you try and throw that Ash towards Drell, okay, well then he throws out the cleanse, and then he can walk towards it. Even if you do have the follow-up CC with that encore, okay, well Baby Josh doesn't succeed, so he uses his ultimate, and then you kind of just walk out. So I think like targeting Baby Josh there, I think just was always the right solution. Didn't have that flash, or there was going to be no way for him to escape there, and so you're just locking in a bot lane advantage and just making sure that you're abusing the lack of those summoners there for the side of BP. And now the reward is going to be the second dragon. I'm not sure that BP want to fight this. There's 3 strong here for the side of TBR.
No, they would
Sorry,
be
this is actually 4.
This.
But they may decide that they want to. Nocturne ult is going to be thrown down. BP, I'm sorry, but I don't think that was the moment to go in. Hacker, if you wanted to try and make something of that, you should have thrown that out a lot sooner and tried to get in there and involved. And so I think BP, I don't know, they're playing a little bit out of sorts right now. Not necessarily the clean shot calling that I would have, or that I have come to expect from them, and I think that we would, expect from them largely, is Philomena should be able to get underneath the turret. Is going to get a sent fling, but it's towards the turret. Encore is going to land onto one. Deathstar trying to go back in, wants to lock down Philomena, manages to get one, it walks out. Crystal Arrow will lock down the Nocturne just for a moment. Cataclysm going to be thrown away. Double kill for Deathstar, but he is collected underneath the turret. The Hacker is managed to sending the Jarvan fleeing, but a scrappy little fight there from both BP and TBR.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they are able to get the kill onto Deathstar, but Deathstar does pick up 2 in return, so a winning play for BP. And, you don't want to have too many of those. You want to limit how many times that those kind of plays happen. I do like the proactiveness from TBR, but they just need to be a little bit more passive. Just hold on a little bit more. Wait till you have 2 or 3 items so that you actually do not die instantly to Deathstar, so that he doesn't get on a rampage, right? I think now you've kind of given him incentive or the items that he needs to start really popping off. If you make another one of those mistake plays like that, give Deathstar maybe 2 or 3 more kills. That's BP's way into this game. That's the way that they want to execute.
Yeah, and I think TBR, they need to be a little bit more conscious of that as well. And I think you'll probably start to see, probably not second item, but I would think third item, Zonya's there for Philomena, just making sure that Deathstar can't get any of those easy kills and just buying some time for the team to, potentially rally if he does get caught again. I think TBR, they need to play a little bit safe in terms of itemization, just to make sure they're not giving any of those free wins to BP. And I think as part of that, making sure that you're not giving any free wins. Also make sure that you're not taking a stupid fight around this Herald, making sure that you're playing it safe there. Because BP on tempo, they would love to get a repeat play now that they're starting to get some gold back in their pockets. And again, this is almost a dead even game So this is very much on the knife edge. Yes, TBR have been playing well. They've been getting kills on the bot side, and that's all well and good, but that does not give you an advantage, and you still have a lot of this game left to play, and it's, I feel like kind of on a knife's edge, and for me, the big kicker here is, again, the lead that Silver is building and whether or not TBR will continue to win these team fights. Jarrell is going to throw out the cleanse. Correa's the first to flash away, but unfortunately, Jarrell has that auto attack damage, has the range. Correa's was not being respectful. I'm not sure why a teleport is being channeled now from the Akali, as 3 people have rotated through for TBR. Uh-oh, this may not be what they want. Talk about giving easy fights. They don't want to throw it down as Uncard lands on a 2. Cataclysm on the backside, but you've sold out the 80s. You sold out potentially your mid laner and your support. Chono will be the next potential to fall. Manages to flash and flag and drag away. Philomena, though, going to be left here to throw a little damage. Collects the ADC. So it's a 1-for-1 in the end. TBR, they got lucky that they weren't punished harder.
Yeah, TBR got extremely lucky there, and the fact that Philomena picks up a kill off the end of that play to kind of make it an even set is just incredible. This is one of those things that we really do not want to see TBR do very many more times.
We're going to have to go back to live as Silver and Co. They have collected Lehigh, and this is what we were worried about, is Silver getting too big of a lead in that top side, setting up Hacker. And now BP, they're starting to do what I think we said they needed to do, which was isolate these 1v1s, get a man disadvantage, punish TBR if they're overpushed somewhere, and that's exactly what happened. And I think even worse for Lehigh is he wasn't really overforced. He was kind of close to that turret for the most part and still got punished. And so for BP, this is their way into the game.
Yeah. You want to do everything that you can to force TBR to split up members. If they have to split members, send 2 or 3 people to actually stop your split push, well, then their team fight prowess really falls apart.
Yep.
And the benefit of having these strong laning champions really starts to show. So Silver is really got the game on his shoulders, in my opinion. Death Star obviously pulling his own weight as well. He's 3-1 in this champion. So if these 2 champions can really cause some havoc, force TBR to split up their power, this is going to be what results in the win ultimately for the side of BP.
Yeah, and I think TBR, they have to recognize, like, hey, this was what you drafted for, is to deal with this team or to deal with this team fighting, and use that to to win this match. And so you have to be comfortable, like, hey, if your goal was to sack this top lane, well, then you can't just commit to that on paper. You have to actually do it and recognize that Silver's going to get something, and you'll have to trade for it somewhere else. You'll have to be able to out-split push as a team, Silver as an individual. And so this next drag fight, I think, is going to be really important. They need all 5 members here, because I think just in the 4v4 alone, I think BB are stronger. Just that's kind of my gut feeling, just with how strong Death Star is and the Hacker, his ability to set up fights. They will be able to lock down this Nocturne, so that's going to make this a whole lot easier, not having to deal with the jungler. So third drag should be going to TBR. Nice little pickup there to make sure that they're able to secure this neutral objective. BP, I think, not being conscious of where they were standing.
Yeah, Rumble might need to drop the ultimate here and reset on this next wave, just because there needs to be someone to actually get back. Okay, they're actually going to push them off mid and still get the dragon. That's actually pretty impressive. I did not know if Philomena was actually going to be able to pull off that dragon with Death Star in the rafters. But yeah, able to get the dragon. So TBR in a good position still. They're not going to mind too much that Silver is pushing this top side, just because they are on Dragon Soul Point now.
I want to point out too that this lead that BP has, this isn't really like a real lead, and like, no disrespect to Baggy Pampers, but all of that really is just on Silver, and it's all plate gold. It's an early turret gold, which I'm not saying isn't important, because it is, especially with the items he's building. But again, BP they're channeling this idea that they're trying to split the team composition for TBR and force someone to respond to Silver, and so that's where they expect their gold to get. So that's their gamble, is that Silver will get more use out of that. But TBR, I think with the dragon stacking, given the fact that they're on Dragon Point, they're going to force BP to respond to them at some point, and hopefully for TBR, that's when they have all 5 and they're able to win a big team fight. And I think if you do see TBR get a 4-man or even a 5-man wipe in a big team fight around Dragon, assuming Silver joins them, I think that will kind of be the indicator of where this game is going to go, and in terms of TBR winning it. But they have to be able to make the use of that, because Silver is not going to stop pushing in this top side.
Yeah, I think that if I'm BP, I don't think Silver should stop. I think Silver should
either
remain in this lane for the rest of the game, and only go bot side once you take the inhibitor. I really just feel like BP, they have a clear way to, it's not a clear way to win, but obviously like a clear game plan. And if you stick to it, Silver is going to be extremely strong, especially if it hits level 20 by the time that the rest of TBR is only like level 16, 17. It's going to be really oppressive and hard to actually stop him in those side lanes. You might have to send 2 members, and that's your winning condition.
I think for BP though, I think there's probably a little bit of nervousness in thinking like, hey, like we're gambling that not only can we get pushed this top side, but that our 4v5 or at least our 4v4 can win that. Can win that battle. I still think that BP have opportunities even in the 4v4 to get an advantage and to pick off some of these members, but the execution and the ease of doing that I think is so much harder for BP, and so I think it's something that they're going to have to be cognizant of. The other thing for BP too is they haven't had a chance to play with this Herald the way they want to because they've been kind of thoroughly stopped from getting a setup that they want. And so for TBR, I think it's just be smart about where that Herald's going to go and make sure that you're contesting it in a smart way. I think BP, again, locking in, trying to make sure that Silver's getting the most out of this. Herald's going to be popped in that jungle, and Silver going to continue to push to the bot side.
Yeah. I think TBR, though, having those dragon stacks is going to feel... They might be able to kill this.
Yeah, they're going to stop this. They're not going to get anything out of it.
So, just ahead all around in terms of objective control. That being said, it should be noted that BP still has all their towers. That is going to provide them a lot of control in terms of how they want to play these lanes out.
Having that additional safety is big, especially if they lose. Like if they lose 3 members in a fight, they can get everybody to safety. But if they do get wiped, I mean, those objectives go really, really quickly for the side of TBR. They can take those down. They have a really, really great sieging. And a minute and 44 until this dragon. BP, this is going to be the signal of whether or not this gamble that you've taken is going to work. And for TBR, same thing. This is going to be an indicative of whether or not your team fighting is strong enough to overcome the lead that TBR have been able to build on the side lane.
Yeah.
Ult on. Teleport thrown out. Not sure this is the play they want to be looking for. I would have rather them hold that. I think this is a little bit aggressive. And yeah, so TBR won't find anything there.
Yeah, Philomena blowing the teleport there is not going to feel that good, especially because Dragon's up in a minute. So, not going to have... No.
Oh, no. Well, he's going to be sent fleeing. There's going to be a little bit of return kill. The Encore buys a little bit of space. Death Star now going to be poked out. Cataclysm committed. Oh, no. Chono a little bit too far forward. That's the jungler down. League of Lehigh has arrived, but a little bit too late. Some big ultimates used. Can they find a way to try and turn this and get something back? As the Baby Cage is buying a little bit of space. League of Lehigh is going to try and walk away here. Neither team is going to be feeling in a great spot, although the man advantage for BP helps them. Ping's coming down. The resets are going to come through. Can Chono manage to get out here? As it's going to be 30 seconds, so he will respawn in time for the Dragon. But a big fight, and BP with a small incremental lead there.
Yeah, I think that Chono didn't realize that Rumble just wasn't in range yet to do the ultimate combo with him. And so because of that, as soon as BP realizes the ultimate is on top of them, they just turn around and blow up Chono almost instantly. Death Star wasn't caught up in that fight, even though he got hit by Peppermint's ultimate. He was able to just completely destroy Chono with some burst damage. And now there's a big question mark as to whether or not TBR can actually win this fight. A lot of their abilities have been used. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah. Most importantly, to Correas, no flash on the ADC. Everyone else does have flash, so at least a little bit of safety there, but that ADC is going to be vulnerable here. This is going to be the big fight. A Chena Crystal Arrow locked on top of Silver. He's going to get deleted instantly. TBR, they want to find a little bit more. They need more. The ultimate from the Rumble is going to come out. Chono not able to buy enough space yet. Jarrell wants to put the damage in. Nocturne on the back line. Jarrell, can he get collected? No, he's doing so much damage. Jarrell with the opportunity to turn it. It looks so good for TBR, but it goes back against them. And now Jarrell manages to collect the last one. BP on a razor's edge. It looked good for TBR, but they turn it around.
Jarrell and Death Star out there looking like Kobe and Shaq, putting the hurt onto TBR. I really didn't think that they were going to come out on top of that fight, but Death Star was able to just do so much with the kit that he had left after that initial engage. Silver falling initially here. We're going to watch the replay. So you'll see Silver kind of waiting in the rafters, trying to see what he can do. And the Ash Arrow is going to hit him immediately, and you'll watch him blow up. But that is not the end of the fight. Shono is going to take some damage here as he tries to chase down Jarrell. Jarrell is able to dash away and continue to do damage to the point where he's able to start doing that damage onto the backline because of that little nook that he gets in. He gets out of the vision and ducks back in. Death Star, meanwhile, is in the backline, just absolutely annihilating them. Ends up jumping onto Philomena, and Jarrell with a sick trick shot here to get the final kill there. And wow, just crazy that it ended up being a win for the side of BP. It really didn't seem like they were going to come out on top, but there wasn't enough lockdown onto Death Star to be able for TBR to actually win that team fight.
I will say for TBR, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in terms of the way that fight went. Obviously, they would have wanted to get that, but I think that they just learned, hey, we absolutely have to lock down the Shinara. We can't allow her, free time nor hit in the back lane. And I think also encouraging for TBR, hey, we deleted Silver at the beginning of the fight. It didn't even take us that much to get rid of him. He wasn't even that tanky and didn't have a chance to get any damage done. And I think if they just play that fight just a little bit differently, or maybe even just let BP walk away, like, hey, we got like the one person that we got their big frontliner. Let's just walk away. Like, let's just go towards this neutral objective, reset, and find a different way to find it. I think then that goes better. So for TBR, yes, disappointing that they lost the fight, but it is encouraging the fact that their team fighting is working the way they want it to. They just need to adjust their target prio.
Yeah, I think, it really comes down to you got to lock down the person that you know is going to be annihilating your team as that fight goes on later and later, and that's going to be Death Star. I think that they need to make sure that Death Star is on Death's door as soon as as soon as the fight starts. You need to really make sure that you lock this guy down. If he's able to just do whatever he wants in the side of those fights, it's going to spell disaster for TBR. So I want to see them hold the cage, hold some of their control for this champion, and not just blow all of it onto one person such as Silver, because as you just confirmed, Silver will die quickly.
Yeah.
But there's someone that's a lot scarier on the map.
Well, and I think, too, like, I don't think it's worth it to necessarily invest a lot of resources into Silver anyway, knowing that he can't really get away. Like, at best, he can throw the cage down, to create a little bit of space, but it's not like he has, the ability to just use a movement ability to get over the wall or anything like that, or get to safety. If he's caught, he's caught. And so I think, like I highlight TBR, just adjust some of the prio. They're going to have an opportunity to do that here. It just feels like we just got a drag fight, but at 2 minutes, roughly, we're going to be getting another one. And it's going to be a big whether or not TBR have learned their lesson and whether or not they're able to get the same positioning, because BP, they did have control over that river, but TBR quickly took it back over just with their zoning and with the abilities that they have. It does a lot of damage. You can lock people down. And so they need to repeat that, but they need to, again, focus the right person. I don't think we can harp on it too much. Like, their ability to win this game, to win Silver Scrapes here, it is dependent on that. So, but for BP, I think as well, like, just to kind of to close out that thought, like, just kind of do what you did again, but don't get caught in that choke point again. Try and see if you can split a couple more members of TBR, because again, if you're fighting into this 5v5 that TBR have, the job becomes incredibly difficult to beat them.
So, I guess my question is to you. What does TBR do to set up these fights? Because it's starting to seem like BP is kind of outlasting them. They're evading long enough to where their cooldowns are, they have all their cooldowns available. They kind of wait for TBR to blow everything, and then they kind of just end up winning the latter half. Do you think Silver should stay and help them in these fights, or should he stay in these sidelines like he is right now?
Yeah, I think Silver's kind of locked up. It's the Yorick. He only has the one job, to be honest with you. In team fights, he just proved that, hey, it's really not that useful, not going to have the ability to be that effective. Even his damage, to some degree suspect. This is a little bit of a split call here. They've kept Silver in the bot side. Nobody knows that this Dragon's going down. Ping's coming through. Perhaps TBR suspected, and yeah, BP, they decide that they don't want to deal with this any longer. They've drawn multiple members out. This is what Silver wanted, so this is exactly what BP needed to do. Now they're going to have Silver alone and the bot side. And TBR, they need to figure out what their shot call is going to be, because they're getting yanked across the map right now. I think they're just going to reset for this Dragon. But to answer your question, for TBR, they need to be first. You don't want to be responding to anything that BP's trying to do. This is going to have to be a response. Oh, nice flash to pull Hacker through. The jungler will be down. Is this a trade for ADC? And I don't think that BP would be necessarily happy with that one. Now that this Dragon is going to be coming available and still a bunch of team fighting tools available for TBR, that's the kind of easy target gone for BP, and now they're going to have to figure out what else they want to do. This Maiden will be dealt with. BP, they're here. They have control over the river, but the Dragon hasn't spawned yet. They won't be able to
have a lot of sustained damage without the Ash, though. I think all they have is Lehigh. I think BP might be happy.
Death Star with a nice little flight. BP, they need to play TBR, they need to play away from this Akali. They need to make sure that she can't get an easy angle. They're going to go and push mid lane. Chrono's just going to go and try and grab some camps. With TBR, whatever call you're going to make, you need to make it together. I think they're trying to buy time for Correas to jump out. He's going to be up in a couple of seconds, but they need to delay this for about 10-15 seconds more. Death Star is still not spotted in this brush. He is going to be looking for a fat angle on a Chonori. Anybody else that steps a little too far forward will be dodging the baby cage. 2 they place any wards? Surely, TBR, surely you suspect that this Akali is somewhere. Oh, they will see it now, so they know that the Akali's positioning. The Dragon's going to respawn. Oh, terrible time for Peppermint to be recalling. Oh, no, why would you do that now, especially with the resets? But neither team's starting the Dragon, so maybe it's not going to get punished too heavily. As for whatever reason, the Rumble is resetting now. Not sure what the timing is for a bunch of people here. The teleport going to be channeled.
Oh, the TP back
so the
in. Okay,
so the boot TP is going to be granted. Now, TBR have started this. Remember, the last time they didn't manage to get the Yunari, and that massively costed them.
Watch Death Star in the back of the line.
3,000. Nocturne Ultimate going to be channeled. It's going to be the soul capture for TBR, but what else can they get? Encore buys a little bit of space, but it's not enough. Death Star on the back line is caught out, though. Is going to get deleted. A double kill for the Ashe. And now BP, they've got to get the hell away. They've got to get this Yunari, and they do. The checklist is completed, and now TBR, they might have what they need to go get this Baron. They're going to try and run down Silver. A flag and a drag would slow him up just a little bit. The baby cage will miss as well, but they'll be fine with that. They're going to go grab themselves a Baron. Huge fight by TBR.
Huge fight. They were able to immediately lock up Death Star by virtue of just exhausting, right? As soon as the exhaust comes down, and once you actually have the Dragon Soul, right? The Chemtech Dragon Soul is going to give you a lot of tankiness. So now Death Star does not have the ability to actually blow them up at low health. And because of that, they're able to exhaust, chase her down. Levi does enough of a job just distracting Gyrell to the point where they're able to chase him in the Dragon Pit and kill him. And at that point, you know, it's all off to the races for the side of TBR. They're going to be able to get the Baron and should be able to get a nice gold lead as soon as they start knocking down all these towers.
Yeah, and I think now for Silver, I think it's maybe a little bit of regret going, this gamble that I've taken in terms of trying to be the side lane threat just isn't working. He's going to try and walk up and potentially interfere with this Seraphine and this Vygar, but that turret is still going to go down. They can walk this on out of there. Also, the rest of the members of TBR walking up as well. Hacker needs to be careful. He's going to channel his ulti. That is the wrong decision, sir. You are now completely by yourself, and just what we talked about, there's no support, there's no counter dive here, or sorry, additional dive for BP, and they're doing a really good job of killing the rest of the member. Chono gets to the backside, the Rumble's gotten involved, Silver's going down, the GA is going to be popped here for the side of Chono, but all BP can do is run away. They only have the three members left, and with the Baron still on for TBR can look to continue to siege this out, and BP, this may be the beginning of the end for them. They don't have the tools they need to fight TBR.
Yeah, and TBR is playing very well around their kit, around their team fighting prowess, and they are going to take advantage of it right now. They're pushing down this top side. We're going to see them take the second tower and possibly even try to get something greedy. They might be able to get this third tower if they decide to push despite the fact that the hacker is up. In my opinion, if Chono hovers them, they should be able to take this as well.
Yeah, and he's kind of waiting in that background just to make sure that no one can try to get around him right now. Also, there's no super deep wards other than that control ward that's way at the top of the lane for the side of BP. So, yeah, they're just going to go ahead and walk this one out of here. They've already turned around that gold lead. They got themselves about a 1.8. They've got the soul. So TBR, they are completely in control of this game. They are in control of their fate as far as this series is concerned. And BP, they've got to find a better answer. And what we were worried about, too, like in the draft, Hacker, I mean, the only person that can follow you even remotely is the Akali, and that's what we saw there. If, TBR, if they're able to just grab him, force out that Nocturne Ultimate, and then drag him into 5 people, there's no follow-up. And BP, I think, are getting punished very heavily for that draft flaw, and so they've got to find a better way to get this. I think the possibility of drawing multiple members of TBR off into a side lane is now gone. TBR, they don't, I think, give a damn about these side lanes anymore. They're just going to group as 5. They know that BP have to do something about it. They're stronger with the Baron push. They're stronger pushing as 5. And so I think that this gamble that BP and Silver took, I think, has not paid off. And now they're going to get even more kills. They're going to siege this mid lane turret. They're going to knock that one down. They've got Baron for at least another 20-ish seconds. They're going to look to knock down this mid lane turret. Silver's going to be forced to recall. And yeah, the split push, it isn't working anymore.
Yeah, it's not working. TBR has been fully unlocked. They have the items. They have the perfect soul against the Akali to really prevent themselves from getting picked off very quickly at the start of the fights. That being said, watch Death Star.
Yeah, they need to be careful. They are seizing this, but the Baron's about to expire. I think it would be a good idea for them to potentially just walk on out of here because it is 5 strong for BP, but the turrets are still getting destroyed. Baron power is going to drop off now, so they are just going to walk this one out of here. No need to get super greedy. Great play by BP, and yeah, the opposite is happening. Now Silver is being forced to come back to the base to help TBR, and that's not his strong suit. He's not a great team fighter.
To help BP, yes, I agree. Yeah, I think TBR is just really playing the mid to end game or late game rather, just excellently. They are taking full advantage of the tools that they have drafted for themselves. And, we talked about it in draft select, or in draft phase. We talked about it in the early game. We both said, look, if Death Star and Silver cannot take full advantage of their lanes, if they can't come out of lane with a 3 to 4K gold lead, right, and just compound on that throughout the late game, it's not going to go well for them. They aren't going to have the power that they need to really draw multiple members onto these side lanes, and they're just going to lose every single team fight. And now that they have the Chemtech Soul on the side of TBR, this is especially true, right? So if you're BP, I think the answer to get back into this game is you have to get some picks on the side lanes somehow, some way. I'm not sure how you do it.
Yep.
But you're going to have to basically play a game of duck, duck, goose and run away from TBR as soon as they try to take a fight and pressure with Silver nonstop.
Yeah, and I think this is the be-all, end-all fight right now. BP, you either find a way to win this fight and buy yourself a little bit of life, at least on life, in terms of trying to stay in this game, or TBR, they knock you down to 4-1. And TBR, they've got at least control over the mid lane right now. They've got control over that river axis. And when we talked about being first, making sure that they're not responding to what BP wants to do, they're well in hand to do that. And Silver, I think, just trying to do anything he can to keep Lehigh locked in this top side. Doesn't want that Rumble to get involved in a team fight there, but he's going to have to get recalled now as pings are coming down in the mid lane. Elder Dragon is spawning in 5 seconds. TBR, they want to be here. Teleport's going to get channeled, so at least Silver will be the first to be here. Teleport not going to be channeled by Lehigh yet. He's going to walk on down. TBR, they're going to wait for this Rumble to get there. They want to be patient. And the same task list as it was in the last fight. Make sure that Jarrell cannot get free time, because he is going to get stunned up. Immediately, the Quentin's going to come through. Channel Crystal Arrow. Channel through, but no kills just yet, as Chono's going to go into the ultimate. Wait a minute. This isn't what they wanted. Death Star towards the backside wants to try and get another one, but it's 2 kills for the side of BP. Chono wants to live. He needs to stay alive. He will stay alive, and it will be TBR locking down the remaining members of BP. Silver's going to get slowed up. The autos are going to go into his back. The teleport committed. TBR have done it. They're going to close out this game. BP, they will no longer be undefeated. They will be taking a loss. They will be going to 4-1. And TBR, they have now put themselves in contention for a potential second place with a 2-1 win over BP.
Just an excellent series.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a victorious member of the TBR squad. We are with League of Lehigh. You guys just shook up the entire standings. You just knocked BP down to 4-1. You have advanced to 5-1. You have given yourselves the potential, obviously for second place because you just beat BP, but potential first place depending on how tomorrow's series goes. How are you guys feeling?
Those games were pretty close. I would say all of them were like pretty close. And I feel like we need to. I think we feel good about what we did today.
Awesome.
It was always nice. It always comes. It was some good League Legends. You know what I mean? And it always feels good at the end of the day. So and we had some fun of those games too.
Nice. What were your expectations coming into this series?
My expectations, I was thinking we'd 3-0 them, or maybe 2-1-0. I expected us to win the series, so that was my expectations. We expected that top side would be a part of our focus here, and making sure that they don't run over the game, because we started with the game. It seems like Silver does pretty good, right? And we want to make sure we shut him down. So that was kind of what our expectation was. So we kind of drafted around that, make sure there were safe picks there, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, speaking of draft, it's something that I noticed all 3 games is that your team had clear identities every single time. Something that we had discussed during the cast in game 2 and 3 is that, in game 2, you had great answers to the Vi and the Nautilus, what they wanted to do with the Bard pick and the Lysandra pick. I just felt like those were really thematically good answers. Who is kind of the mastermind behind how you draft, or is it really just a team effort?
I feel like it's for our team specifically, it's really a strong team effort. I feel like everyone understands their roles really, really well, and what works around a team comp to make sure like we win the game, kind of thing. Like no one on our team is really selfish with their picks, and I feel like that helps us a lot get these wins here. Is that everyone's willing to do what needs to be done to win these games around the team. But for who does most of this drafting, who prepares for drafting, is probably Captain Philomena and Maya. And I hope round 2 as well.
Awesome.
Walk me through, obviously, the task that you had in both of these games. You're trying to deal with Silver, who I think is one of the standout players of BP. Obviously, he's very, very skilled in that lane. You get 2 really, really interesting matchups in those winning games. Obviously, they were connected in the second game, and then the Rumble in the third game. What was the decision? I guess we'll start with that third game. You know, you're on this Rumble. You're playing mostly for the team fighting. You know that Silver's on this Yorick. He's going to get that split pushing pressure. Was that something that y'all opted into, or were you trying to win that 1v1 against the Yorick?
We were a little worried, not gonna lie, about this Yorick pick because there wasn't a lot of safe answers into it left. Like, usually I picked the Cho'Gath or the Orin. That was kind of already done and said. But the next best option I thought would be good. You know, I gave my voice, like, I think we pick Rumble here. He has good wave clear. He'd probably be able to stand. He has a shield for that poke. You know, his W. He'd probably be able to stand enough against Yorick that it doesn't become an issue. And that's what happened in that game, right? He wasn't able to get turrets like crazy. I was able to land against him, able to clear these waves, and we were able to just win team fights, and that was kind of the plan. It worked out.
One question as a follow up on that third game before Blackmage. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. There's that fight that happens around that fourth. It's the fourth dragon. You guys end up losing that one. I think the big part, which I think was kind of a surprise, is just how quickly Jarrell started to run away with that, even despite how good that engage was. Walk me through what the comms were before that fight happened and then after that fight.
I'm trying to remember. There's a lot of fights. That's when the Ash arrow landed, right?
Yeah, that's when the Ash arrow landed, and then Jarrell was able to kill just basically everybody because they got over the wall and then was just stacking autos.
Yeah, for additional context, you immediately blew up Silver, and then it looked like you were winning the fight at first, and then once you cornered Jarrell into the bottom jungle, he kind of turned things on. And,
it was around the red buff.
That was a close fight. That was really close. Like, I could have been like anyone. So like, I think we should have had it better though. I think we should win these fights more than we did. One of the issues was when I was up on the Rumble fuel thing, right? And if it goes too high, you get silenced. When that arrow landed, I pressed my Q a little too early, and I got silenced. So I couldn't use my ult right after for the engage, and it made everything a lot more difficult than it needed to be. So that was kind of hard because we were going to run them down, right? If they Rumble and go in there, and we couldn't really do that as much as we wanted to. Like basically take advantage of the Yorick being stunned and, you know, just run down afterwards.
Sure.
So they were expecting Rumble and it just didn't come. So everything from that made it a little not as expected for the team fight. It didn't go as planned, which made things a little disjointed. And we kind of got caught off guard by was it the Kylie in the back line?
The call on that first fight, the Kali never had the chance because y'all forced him out. As soon as you blew up Silver, they started to run.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm curious,
so that part, me not having the Rumble made it more difficult. I think that should have been.
After that fight was over, was there any call within the team to say, hey, we need to make sure that we're focusing Jarrell on that Yanar to make sure that he doesn't run away with a fight, or was that not even something that y'all were thinking about?
Oh, we were more focused on keeping and make sure we had enough peel because we have more sustained fights. We have the Ash, we have the Seraphine. Like if they can't get on top of us, I think we just win these fights in general. So we were more focused on that, not more like taking them out. Just like more like a front to back, keep our carry safe, keep the Veigar and poke range. Not letting them get instantly deleted by the Kylie. Because if the Kylie can't do her thing, she's kind of just out of the picture, right? And like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I feel like, you know, Jarvan is good enough to engage when he's taking it from our team. Like, we can just go in there and mess him up. We have the follow up at CC. Like once we can get on somebody, it's more about dumping us first where we don't expect it kind of issue. I feel like we were kind of surrounding our plan around.
Awesome. I think just to harp on Horizon's, you know, original question was just like when that fight doesn't go the way that you felt like it would, despite the beginning seeming like it was really turning out to be something good for your team. Do you have a single person who kind of rallies the team together? You know, hey, let's pull through. You know, keeps the team in good spirits, or is it kind of just a collective effort like it is with your drafting?
I would say Philomena mostly in these games because he's the main shot caller. We usually follow his lead. Every time he says something, we play around that, right? Because we all want to be on the same page, right? So we need someone who's making like the final shots for, like, you know, are we doing Dragon? Are we doing Baron? Are we gonna take this? Are we not gonna take that? So he's the one that mainly does that for us. You know, everyone else needs to put their input too. It's really important you communicate like who has what in fights, and everyone does that job as well. But for like the main shot caller, like, are we gonna do this or not? I would say it's definitely Philomena for our team.
Awesome.
Awesome. One final question before we let you go. So this was obviously your last regular season game of the season. You guys are going to end a 5-1 record, which is really, really good. Obviously, a late season resurgence because of the way that y'all's beginning season went, where y'all didn't have a lot of games that y'all were playing. It seems like there's kind of been this mad dash, to sort of end up with a really, really good record. You have the possibility potentially to be in a first place battle with BBC, depending on how that series goes tomorrow. If BP is able to beat them, you would have the head-to-head over BP. So I guess just kind of like two questions kind of simultaneously. So first of all, obviously, what are your expectations if you can get that first place fight with BBC? And then also, how do you feel about how y'all's season has gone now that y'all have reached the end of the regular game season and y'all are looking towards playoffs?
I feel like our team is like not like really, really good. We're really like top. We can always have room to improve, but right now I feel like we're doing drafting good. We're doing communication well in fights. Like plan. We have an idea what you want to do like every game, and it's been really well for how like BBC goes, and like when we get there and that happens. I'm all for that. That sounds like a really exciting like matchup. Like what's gonna happen? That sounds really exciting to me. I always down for some good League of Legends games. For BGC, like we scrimmed them. Like they're the only ones we don't like face in the regular series, right? And we scrimmed them. First time we 3-0'd them. The second time they 3-0'd us. So so there's some tension there. There's some rivalry going on
conversations.
There. Yeah. So it's fire. Like we be down to get some revenge after what they did us last time. So, but I expect us to beat them still. I expect it to be a 3-0 or 2-1.
Well, it would only be since it's only a best of 3. You'd only need the 2 wins, but
right.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what that series happen. It would have to happen pretty soon. I think you guys would probably have to play that Friday, or you'd have to play that very early Saturday, just because of the standings ramifications. So assuming that the games records are the same and everything, because if they are, then at that point, because we're not tracking other stats, it would just have to be a head-to-head. So and then obviously, like BBC haven't dropped any games either. So interested to see how that'll end up. But congratulations to you and your team on finishing 5-1. Phenomenal to watch you guys play. Very, very impressive performances. Congratulations on your player of the series. I'm sure that's exciting to kind of end out your regular season that way.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So, that's going to do it. So again, thank you so much for the interview. And before you go, the platform is yours. Anybody you want to shout out? Anybody you want to call out? Any trash?
Not gonna lie, in the last team play on Rumble, I blew chunks. I'm not gonna. I missed everything. I missed an ultimate. It was really embarrassing, honestly. So the fact that I can like do everything wrong in that fight and we still win it, I really appreciate my team. Like that's just how good they are, right? I can miss everything on as Rumble. Am I supposed to do in the team fight? And my team just is still able to come basically 45 in my opinion that fight. Like they absolutely crushed them.
Awesome.
And the fact that we were able to do that and my team's able to do that, like I have mad respect for my team. Like that's awesome. So I have mad respect for our carries and their positioning and everyone I did in that last team fight.
All right, shout out the whole team one time. All right, well, Lehigh, thank you so much for the interview.
Also, Glacier. Glacier's awesome.
Shout out Glacier one time. Shout out Glacier one time. Well, Lehigh, thank you so much for the interview. We really appreciate it. Go get out of here. Go celebrate with your team. Looking forward to seeing you guys hopefully a potential best of 3 series for that first place fight. But even if we don't get that, looking forward to seeing you guys in the playoffs. I'll be watching you guys from Arizona wherever I can. And congratulations on y'all's 5-1 record.